What is up, everybody? Welcome to Stat Diggers. We're going to be looking into UFC Vegas 47, and we have a very good card on our hands, filled with some pretty good bangers, some pretty good spots looking at. I'm here with Weezy, as always, the man behind the stats. Weezy, how was your week off, and you looking forward to this week?
Busy week off, doing some behind-the-scenes stuff with the statistics that I'm trying to compile to get the analytics that are going to make us all buy yachts. But one step at a time. We got to take baby steps towards getting these analytics. That's what I was doing this week. Enjoyed last week's card. Had an up week with just under 5 units. Really fun week of fights. Fantastic stuff. We got the week off behind us now, Brady, and now in front of us, we've got 8 consecutive weeks, 8 consecutive Saturdays of UFC cards. So you and I, we're going to be putting our pedal to the metal going forward here for the next 2 months, giving you nonstop content here on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, man. We got our work cut out for us, and it starts with this week, UFC Vegas 47, Strickland versus Hermansson. Can't wait to chop up these 13 fights with these guys.
Yep, 8 weeks straight. For content creators, it's pretty tough, especially for us doing it on a Sunday. Like, it's really hard to say if you're drinking on a Saturday night to have the energy to get up and tape study all Sunday. So that's why I'm trying to lay off the drinks as of now. But Weezy, you had a great night last week, right? Kind of go into your bets a little bit. You had some really sharp spots.
Yeah, for sure. Had some great spots, had some spots that just kind of fell apart like a Chinese motorcycle too. So, it's good. We have our ups and downs. Let's start with the bad for me. How about going 0 for 2 on the week for my ass shaving of the week? 0 for 2. And how about in 2022 being 0 for 3 on my ass shaving of the week picks? Chase Sherman gets tapped by Fat Collier in the first round, okay? And then we got Kay Hansen losing to the debut Jasmine Jasudavicius, who had a fantastic performance. Big ups, Jasmine Jasudavicius. Really great debut for her. And then Hani Barcelos loses to Victor Henry, who just looked like the second coming out there. He looked fantastic. He looked like the second coming of Jesus Christ, and not just because of the hair. He looked great out there. So, yeah, bad ass shaving of the week picks for me. 0 for 3 on the year. However, I've strung together 5 straight winning events with the UFC here on gambling. So, at least the bets are cashing. So I lost some money on Kay Hansen. I had a half unit on her to finish. I had an eighth of a unit on her to finish in the 3rd round. And I had a 1.5 unit parlay on Barcelos and Hansen. But if you're gonna miss a parlay, you might as well miss both legs of it. But other than that, I had the finish only prop on Vanessa Demopoulos for 2.5 units. That cashed for 2 units for me for that, so that was great. I had Davis and Figueiredo by decision at plus 600 for a half unit, and I had 1 unit on the Figueiredo money line at plus 157. I had Michelle Pereira winning by decision or in the 3rd round. There were a lot of bets that cashed for me. Finished up 4.85 units tracked. Had another parlay that hit that was untracked. So a fantastic week for me. But, whether we win or whether we lose, and I say it every week, Brady, we got to keep looking forward, because that's the opportunities that lie in front of us. Is we got to do our research. We got to put the work in. We got to find our spots so that we can keep this winning streak going, man.
Yeah, for sure. Whether the bookies shave our ass or we shave the bookies' ass like we did last week, and we'll always be here for sure. Me, it was a pretty good night. Start off the night bad with a 1 unit bet on Hansen inside the distance. Got a lot of crap for that, but definitely made up for it with the Figgy call. Got Figgy at plus 157. Had a unit on that. I had 1.5 units also on the Moreno Figgy over 2.5 rounds. So it was the best case scenario for me and you both, right? Like Figgy to win, it to go over 2.5 rounds. And for some reason, they had Figgy by decision at plus 600, which you got on, which was a phenomenal bet. That line was ridiculous. So, yeah, great cash there. And then also had the fight doesn't go to decision on Frivola Valdez, minus 110 that closed like nearly minus 200. Probably should have went heavier on that. And then I had the Jack Della Maddalena, Pete Rodriguez, 3.5 units, my biggest bet of the night, the under 2.5 rounds, minus 220. Probably should have went heavier on that as well. And then the other losses were Stamen by decision. He got his ass shaved, half a unit, no shame there. And then Gravely Oliveira fight isn't good decision, half a unit. So finished up 3.16 units. Pretty solid night. Really happy with that. But yeah, we're getting into this card. We have UFC Vegas 47. Should be a good one. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. If you all can please smash the like button. It really does help us out. Also subscribe here to Post Sports Radio. We go live every Sunday. Football is almost over, so that should help us out a lot. I know there's going to be a game going on pretty soon, but luckily the best game of the day is already over, the Bengals Chiefs, and now it's going to be the Rams and 49ers, which I'm not really excited for that one, but I am excited to see who gets into the Super Bowl. So first one in the chat, Mushroom. We got Tim as well. What is up, Tim? We got Eric Betts fight saying he's got his shovel and his backup shovel. Goodness, there you go. Got to have that backup. We have Addicted to Combat, DXJC. We have Raw Torque. We have Roy. Who else we got in here? We have Monk. What is up, Monk? We got Dan Goldstein going to bring the comedy tonight. I'm sure of it. Rick Sanchez. We got Hype. We got MMA Wells. We got Lou in there as well. Thank you all for hanging out on a Sunday with that playoff football going on. Roy, I see you in there. Jack Attack as always as well. Shout out to all you guys. Ariel Hilwani. And I think I got everybody. Jay, all you guys. Appreciate you guys. So I say we get into it here. Weezy, we'll start with the very first fight of the night. And this is probably going to change. I know we're doing this on a Sunday early in the week. So it definitely will probably change. But, I'm really looking forward to this fight if it does stay on. So this is weird because a lot of the bookies have taken this fight off. Like, you won't find lines on a couple of the main bookies. I know Five Dime just got that back on there today, but it was off for a couple of days. Bet Online still doesn't have it. There's some other books as well. So I'm not sure if this fight's going to happen or not. I'm assuming it's going to happen, but me and Weezer were talking, and Bonder has pulled out of his last couple fights. So we'll see if this does happen. If it does, I think, Malcolm Gordon is in serious trouble here. And we'll talk about why. Gordon, he's 31 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Going against Bonder, who's 29 years old, 5'6", not sure on the reach there, but Bonder's going to be 2 years younger, and he's going to be at a 1-inch height disadvantage. Looking at the last few fights, Bonder is going to be making his UFC debut. The competition is very questionable, but I really do like what I see out of this guy. He is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He has a 100% finish rate as well. Malcolm Gordon, he has 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Amir Albazi, and I was kind of surprised. I remember I was picking Gordon that fight. This guy was a black belt, it was really good grappling. And it was a shock to me that purple belt Amir Albazi, who I am high on now, went out there and submitted Malcolm Gordon. That really shocked me. But he went out there in his next fight against Sue Mudarji, probably one of the funniest knockouts you ever see, where Mudarji hits him, and then he has the most delayed reaction. It just kind of flops to his stomach there and covers up, kind of quits in that fight, it looked like. And then he bounces back with a good win over Francisco Figueiredo, the bad Figueiredo. This is a matchup where I really like Bonder in this matchup. There are a few concerns. Him, again, pulling out of multiple fights as of late. Him not fighting the best competition. But what you see out of this guy is very, very good wrestling, very high-paced. He's very strong and very good grappling as well. He's dangerous everywhere the fight goes. And there's just a lot of things I don't like out of Malcolm Gordon. I liked what I saw in terms of outside of the UFC, but inside the UFC, he's very chinny. This guy probably has pound for pound the worst chin, not only on the card, but in the UFC. This guy's chin is horrible. I think he has 4 or 5 knockout losses. He seems a lot like a quitter. When it's not going his way, he's going to quit in there. But he is a BJJ black belt. He is dangerous. He does hit pretty hard, but he's definitely a very, very bad nail. And I feel like Bonder probably comes in here and just shaves his ass, honestly. Weezy, I really like Bonder in this fight. Have you seen anything you liked out of Bonder as well?
Yeah, I watched all the available footage on Bonder just because I'd never seen him before. And he's an interesting prospect, very good grappler. When he's striking, he seems to be pretty defensively sound, keeps a high guard. He looks to be really well-rounded. And then you look at the 16 professional fights for Bonder, he's 14-2, and he's finished all 14 of those wins inside the distance. 71% by submission, 29% by knockout. But the problem with Bonder is it's the level of competition. You could go through the names on this list. I don't even really think there's one recognizable name. When you look in the last 5, Kenan Jafarli, Lev Ambartsumian, Gennady Gitlan, Kiwin Jacques, and Sergey Kupin. And I've never heard of any of these people. And a lot of, I was watching the tape on this guy. Some of these kids are 19 years old that Bonder is beating. And then you look at some of the promotions that he's fighting in. There's one where he's fighting on this platform. It's a raised platform, and there's no ring and there's no cage. So like if somebody blasts doubles and the guy doesn't, just lay down, they both go tumbling off of the platform. It's really weird. So Bondar's biggest concern, in my opinion, here is the level of competition that he's fought. It feels like Malcolm Gordon's the guy who's fought the better level of competition. In Malcolm Gordon's 3 UFC fights, we see he's landing just as many significant strikes as he absorbs. He throws a little bit more than his opponents. The number that jumps off the page is the fact that this guy's been knocked out, knocked down on 2% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed in only 3 fights. So, this guy's been knocked down twice and only 49 significant strikes absorbed. That's quite a bit. And 0.73 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. He's extremely chinny. He hates getting hit. And he's got a 46% striking defense, which isn't very good. On the other hand, it's hard to know how Bandar would look in a loss, because the only losses that we've seen were by decision. Or no, he has been subbed once, but that one wasn't available on tape. So I know that he lost once by decision in a fight that went to overtime, one of those platform matches. But there's a lot to like about both of these guys. Gordon seems to put it all together pretty well. He's got some good striking. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. He's got a lot of subs on his record. Almost half of his wins are by submission, 6 of his 13 wins. So both of these guys finish fights at a very high rate. 77% finish rate in Malcolm Gordon's 13 professional wins, 100% finish rate in Bondar's 14 professional wins. So that means out of the 27 wins that these guys have combined for, 25 of them have been inside the distance. And then Gordon has been finished in all 5 of his professional losses, and Bandar has been finished in one of his 2 losses. When they pulled these lines, I frankly think it's because these bookies are afraid to drop lines on this fight. It's very rare that you find flyweights with this kind of finishing power for and against. And I think it's hard to open up like a flyweight fight doesn't go to decision line at where it deserves to be opened up for a fight like this, which might even be like minus 300, because flyweight fights only finish 43% of the time. Theoretically, you should also always be getting plus money in a flyweight fight doesn't go to decision bet, but this one feels like it should be priced up around minus 250 for openers. So it just feels like there's some scared bookies to open this line and open props on this line, because even though it's still being shown on UFC stats, it's still being shown on SureDog, a lot of sites have flat out pulled this line from the books, and not one of these guys has had the stones to open up a prop on this fight, Brady. It's a very, very compelling curtain jerker.
These finish rates are insane, especially they're 125-pound fighter. Like, that's nuts. Bonder, 100% finish rate, and Gordon finished in all of his losses. Like I said, this guy's chin is probably pound for pound the worst you'll ever see. So yeah, I was definitely thinking violence. There's no prop out yet, like you said, like you're talking about, like for the fight doesn't go or the unders, at least not on the main books. No FanDuel, DraftKings, BetOnline, 5 dimes, but they do have an over-under on Bovada set at 1.5, and it's like juice to the under, which I would never touch a flyweight under, especially juiced up like that. But I do think it probably does finish very, very early here, and I think Bonder probably does finish him. So yeah, we don't have props to go off of, Weezy. This is the only fight on the card where there are no props. We do have a line. We see that Bonder on 5 dimes is minus 255. No line on BetOnline. FanDuel is minus 240. DraftKings is minus 250. Yeah, I mean, I like Bonder here. Don't know if I'll play it. I was kind of looking for violence, but I don't know what they're going to price it at. I was kind of hoping that since it is a flyweight fight, maybe get a little bit of a discount, but I have a feeling they're going to be all over this one.
Yeah, for me, this is kind of a stay away here because I don't want to bet on Malcolm Gordon as chinny as he's shown to be thus far in the UFC. But when you look at the tail of the tape, it's very similar. When you look at the professional experience, it's almost identical. When you look at their striking and their grappling on tape, they're both really good with their grappling. They both use their grappling in order to win fights and submit their opponents. They're both pretty good wrestlers. And frankly, they're both serviceable on the feet. So they have a lot of the same skill sets here. The difference is that Gordon's fought the better competition. He's got 3 UFC level fights while Bandar has none. And even prior to the UFC, Malcolm Gordon was fighting better competition than Bondar ever was fighting. So it just seems like a lot of juice to give up on Bondar, even though when you watch the tape, his tape pops more than Gordon, but that could be because he's fighting a bunch of 19-year-olds in promotions that nobody's ever heard of. So it's feeling like a stay away. But I'd love to see somebody open some props on this one, because that seems to be where you can make some gravy on this fight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely get the level competition thing, but stylistically, Malcolm Gordon, 0% takedown defense, right? He's been taken down 3 for 3.
Three times out of 3 attempts, yeah, and he's only 2 for 11 on his own takedown attempts in his own right. So yeah, it does look like Gordon's having a hard time deciding where the fight takes place in the grappling realm, and that could be very dangerous against an opponent like Bondar.
Yeah, can't wait to see where they open up those lines. Watch it be like minus 350, which it probably honestly should be, but I'm hoping they kind of mess up on this one. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. I do want to shout out, if I can find it all the way up here.
There it is. Guy F. Carrillo, isn't it? Yep.
I'll make the first dono to the best in the business. I humbly appreciate you both. Let's freaking get it. Appreciate you, Carrillo, always in here supporting. Thank you for the $10 dono. Shout out to you. All right, so very fun first fight of the night. Let's go to a very fun second fight of the night. We have Jonathan Almeida going against Danilo Marques. We have Almeida, who is 30 years old, 6'3" with a 79-inch reach. Marques, he is 36 years old, 6'6" with a 77-inch reach. And I got to give some props to Marques. I literally thought this guy was a huge bum. I thought he was the worst fighter in the UFC, and he has consistently, proved me wrong. Against Cadiz Ibragimov, I was picking Cadiz. He was like minus 150 Cadiz. I did not bet it, but I thought Cadiz would probably win it. But no, Marques went out there. He took him down. He was able to control him and win a decision there. And then in his next fight against Mike Rodriguez, I actually bet Mike Rodriguez. Rodriguez was a huge favorite. And Marques went out there. He took him down multiple times. And he ended up submitting him. So I was wrong 2 times in a row. And then I was like, okay, I'm still going to fade this guy. And the fade finally paid off, got Kennedy at plus money there. And I didn't feel great about that. He went out there, he took Kennedy's back the whole first round. He won the second round as well, up until like the last couple of seconds of that second round. And then in the third round, he just completely quit. He completely gassed. And, Kennedy was able to get him out of there. But, Marques, he's a good wrestler. He's a good grappler. I believe he's a black belt in BJJ. The cardio is horrendous. The striking's horrendous. The chin is very questionable as well. I still have some serious question marks about this guy, but I will say he has proven me wrong a little bit. Almeida, like I'm really impressed with Almeida. So there was only like 4 or 5 fights out there that I was able to watch, but from what I've seen, this guy is very, very strong. I mean, I was so impressed with his Contender Series fight. He went out there and took down Nazardinov multiple times, ended up submitting him in that second round. And I feel like cardio is going to be huge in this fight. And I really like what I see from Almeida in terms of the takedowns, the grappling. I guess the only knock on him would be he is submission over position, which could potentially get him in trouble here. But I think at the very least, Marques might make this fight a little competitive early on. I just think as the fight goes on, Almeida is going to take over and probably get him out of there in like the late second round, early third. I don't think that Marques is going to have the gas tank to compete for 15 minutes against somebody like Almeida. So we're going to see Weezy. Almeida is, I believe, the biggest favorite on the card. Contender Series guy, a little unproven, but I'd love to fade Marques, but I don't know about laying minus 400 on Almeida. What do you think about this fight, Weezy?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight because I remember when Marques came into the UFC. You start researching these guys that you've never seen in the UFC before, and you think, oh, okay, well let's go see the spectacular finishes that this guy had prior to coming into the UFC that got him here. And then you're like, wait a second, what do you mean this guy hasn't fought in 2.5 years? So he comes in and he debuts against Cadiz Ibragimov. He has 2 fights canceled in between, and his last win is over someone named Clayton Caetano, who's 5-4-1 in Gladiator FC over 2.5 years before the Ibragimov win. Before that, he beats a guy named Mark Palomino, who's 0-16. And then before that, he loses to Myron Dennis via split decision in LFA. He gets a win before that over Junior Lorenko, 5-9 in Curitiba top fight. And then before that, he loses getting knocked out in the first round to a 6-6 fat guy named Marcio Tellez. And when you watch the tape on that fight, you see Danilo get knocked out, and you say, oh, Danilo, no. And so he came into the UFC with those fights being his last 5 fights. He was 3-2. He had beaten guys that were 5-9, 0-16, and 5-4-1. So naturally, you're thinking, man, this guy, he must know somebody. He must be friends with somebody. It turns out he knows Damian Maia, and he trains with Damian Maia, and they're like, Damian got him a shot, but then he beats Ibrahimov via a unanimous decision. Then he submits Mike Rodriguez late in the second round. Then he controls 2 rounds against Kennedy, and you're like, oh my God, is this guy going to put 3 wins together? So now here we are. He loses in the 3rd round to Kennedy. He gasses out. Kennedy, known for his durability and his gas tank. I cashed a 3rd round prop on that. Nice. So that was a good fight for me. But when you look at the difference between these guys, Danilo Marquez, 6 years older, 3 inches taller, but it's Almeida with the 2-inch reach advantage. And this guy, if you haven't seen Almeida yet, this guy looks like he was carved out of a slab of marble. He's a terrifying looking human being. You look at this guy and you think, how the hell does he make 205 pounds at 6'3" with a 79-inch reach? And he's just got muscle on top of muscle, but he does it. He's got 2 more professional fights than Marquez, but it's Marquez who has more cage time because Almeida has an average fight time of 4.47 minutes. This guy is a killer finisher. He's finished 100% of his pro wins. That's 14 of them. And in his 2 losses, he's been finished once by knockout. While Marquez has finished 81% of his professional wins inside the distance. That is 5 by submission and 4 by knockout, and he's been finished in 2 out of his 3 losses. So we don't have much in the way of statistics for Almeida, but we do know that this guy is somebody who's going to use his ground game to dominate people. Neither one of these guys has much on the feet. It would probably be Almeida that's going to be the better striker here. And both of these guys use their ground games to suffocate their opponents and beat them. It's going to be a very interesting fight, but this guy Almeida is a very, very hot prospect right now. He got a win over Ildemar Alcantara in Thunder Fight, had another win in Thunder Fight after that, came in, got the big win on the Contender Series over, a guy that was a big favorite in that fight, Nasruddinov, a guy who was, I believe 8-0 or 9-0 going into that fight against Almeida, and he was beating guys in ACA, Russians that had like a record of like 70-15 if you combine the guys that he was beating there. So, this guy was a very highly touted prospect who had a very Khabib-esque fight style. And Almeida said before the fight, I'm the one with the Khabib style. And I remember Bisping was laughing at him, saying that's a pretty bold thing to say about a guy that's a Russian coming in here, training with these Russians, these Dagestani killers on the mat. But he was the one that got it done. There was a big size advantage there for Jailton, but man, when this guy gets his ground game going, it's terrifying. It's like watching Hamzat work. It really is. It's like watching Khabib work. And he did the same thing. He did get reversed. He will give up some time on the bottom, but he's so strong. He's so big for the weight class that, I think he can hide some of those sloppy moves that he will make every once in a while on the mat, being a little bit more of a submission over position grappler, but he can rely on his athletic ability to kind of hide some of those mistakes that he does make. I see why he's a big favorite here. Everything that you see on tape from Almeida, it just pops the eyes. His physique, his power, the way that he grapples and just suffocates his opponents. It's all very, very impressive to watch. He's 6 years younger than Danilo, got even more professional fights than Danilo. And I think that he might even be better on the ground than Danilo. And that's saying a lot for a black belt that trains under Damian Maia and Marquez. So, yeah, I got a feeling that Jailton Almeida is going to be bringing out the razor and shaving some ass on Saturday, man.
Yeah, I like him by ass shaving as well. I think it's a good spot for him. But yeah, but minus 400, Contender Series guy. I don't feel great about it, but, if I was to do a parlay, I think I'd be fine with that. But I'm not doing a parlay. So probably not going to bet anything from a money line standpoint. I see some people taking a shot on the dog and Marquez. Let's see. We have some props here, Weezy. We have the over-under. It is set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 rounds plus 135. The under 1.5 rounds minus 165. The fight goes to decision is plus 318. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 420. Marquez inside the distance is plus 500. Almeida inside the distance is minus 215. My goodness. So the bookies think it finished inside the distance. I think it finished inside the distance, and I think it is Almeida finishing Marquez. I want to say second, maybe third round, probably something to look at as well. But I think Marquez gets it done. I mean, Almeida gets it done.
Yeah, you can look at the numbers on the page and they can jump off, but nothing really jumps off the page, than the bookies saying, "Oh yeah, fight doesn't go to decision minus 400 for a guy that's making his UFC debut." I mean, when the bookies say that, it just shows you how much the tape really praises this guy Almeida here and his skill set on the ground. He's terrifying to watch. I'm really looking forward to this fight, and Danilo Marquez, big ups for taking this fight, because I don't think there were a lot of guys that were going to be picking up the phone to fight this dude.
No, definitely not. And Almeida does have a 100% finish rate, and all of his wins do actually come under 1.5 rounds. So maybe the under 1.5 is something to look at, but it is juiced really bad to minus 165. But yeah, another great fight there. We'll keep moving on to an interesting fight. We have Alexis Davis, Julio Stolyarenko. We have Davis. She is 37 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Stolyarenko, she is 28 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. Davis, she's going to be 9 years older. She's going to be at a 1-inch height disadvantage, but she's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage there. Alexis Davis, she is 1-4 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss to Caitlin Chukagian, a decision loss to Jennifer Maia, a decision loss to Viviane Araújo, a decision win against Sabino Mazo, and then a decision loss to Pannie Kianzad. As far as Julio Stolyarenko, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. She has a loss in her last fight against Julia Vila, and then she had a loss to Yana Kunitskaya and also a loss against Leah Letson by decision as well. So, this is a fight where you have the veteran Alexis Davis, black belt in BJJ. The striking, it's not great, but it did look pretty good in the Pannie Kianzad fight. She's very hittable. She gets cut open easily. Stolyarenko, she's very hittable in her own right. I think the striking is going to be very interesting. I did go back and watch the Avila fight, and Stolyarenko's striking looked a lot better than in past fights. But she is, pretty much a walking punching bag. They kind of both are. It's a very interesting fight because you take a look at Stolyarenko. She's won all but one of her fights by submission, and I believe all those submission wins are by armbar. So it's really hard to see Stolyarenko to come out here, get taken down, and get an armbar against a veteran, a black belt against Alexis Davis. But I kind of feel like that's her path to victory. I feel like if Alexis Davis wants to get the fight down to the mat, she absolutely can. I guess my only concern here, Weezy, is what happens if Stolyarenko gets on top of Davis? Davis has shown a pretty terrible takedown defense, 27%. I don't like that. But Julia Stolyarenko's wrestling is some of the worst I've ever seen. So it's a really weird fight. I kind of really liked Alexis Davis at first, but at the end of the day, this is a pretty low-level women's MMA fight that I kind of just want to stay away from. But I like Alexis Davis here. I think on the feet, she'll definitely have success. I think it'll be close. And then I think she can pretty much take down Julio and get top control whenever she wants it. But, this is probably going to be a stay away from me. We talked about it a little bit over the week, the fight IQ of Alexis Davis. She's somebody that has pretty horrendous fight IQ. She's somebody that has advantages on the mat in a lot of her fights, but she chooses to strike instead. Like in the Pannie Kianzad fight, it was a close decision that I personally thought she won, but she would have won that fight clearly if all she could have did was implement another extra takedown or two. But give me Alexis Davis. Probably staying away. Weezy, you have any interest in this fight?
Yeah, my interest in this fight is calling the orderlies on your ass if you bet it. That's basically what I'm here to do, Brady, is just to make sure that you don't bet this fight, make sure that everybody else doesn't bet this fight. I know it's easy to look at this fight and say, boy, it really looks like Alexis Davis is set up for a win here. And that's all well and good, but you don't want to bet somebody that's got really bad process, really bad fight IQ when you're laying that kind of juice. Alexis Davis is the kind of fighter that when you need her to take her opponent down, you're throwing shit at the TV in the second round, screaming, please, for the love of Jah, will you shoot a takedown? You're killing me, right? And then now she's going to be fighting Julia Stolyarenko, a woman who has won 9 fights in her career, and 8 of them have been armbar from guard. Watch Alexis Davis shoot a takedown in the first 10 seconds of this fight. get in Julia Stoliarenko's guard, and then be submitted. I'm telling you, it'll be me on Twitter busting your balls if you bet the Alexis Davis money line and that happens to you. I will say I told you so. But it just feels like a stay away here because, first of all, one of the things you have to look at, and which is significant, Brady, is Julia Stoliarenko is 9 years younger than Alexis Davis at this point. She's an inch taller, but it is Davis who's got the 2-inch reach advantage, and it's Davis who's got a huge experience advantage here. 31 professional fights, 363 minutes of professional cage time, over 200 more minutes in the professional cage than Stoliarenko, over almost 5 more years as a professional than Stoliarenko, and 10 more fights at the UFC level and 120 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Alexis Davis, a huge experience advantage here. Alexis Davis is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and is going to be the better ground fighter here. We know that Stoliarenko has an arm bar from guard, but, I mean, you don't see black belts get caught in that every day. If it does happen, it's women's MMA, but, you know, it's not a likely thing that that's going to happen. When we look at the striking between these two, yeah, you mentioned it. Stoliarenko showed some improvements. She should. There was no place for her to go but up with her striking from where we first saw her when she went into the Ultimate Fighter House some years back. So, but Alexis Davis, as far as I'm concerned, she won that fight against Pani Khanzad, and Panny's a fantastic striker with a kickboxing base who has won a lot of fights in the UFC using that striking, including the Alexis Davis fight, you know, according to the judges that day. I disagreed with them, but it doesn't make much of a difference here. You don't want to lay minus 225 on a woman who's 1-4 in her last 5 and who has shown really bad fight IQ and a really bad understanding of how to make her opponents uncomfortable and fight to the game plan that will make her opponents uncomfortable. So it's a big stay away from me. I mean, can you see any angle on this? Maybe fight goes to decision. Let's hope that Julia doesn't have another horrific weight cut, and we don't have to see that weight cut porn that we saw the last time with the torture porn of her just passing out there. That was really bad. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. And when you throw that variable into the mix, it just makes it even more of a 1-800-GAMBLER fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought the Davis minus 200 looked pretty appetizing at first. You know, I went back and watched some Stoliarenko fights, and you know, it's bad. I never saw this before. Like when I watched one of her fights, the ref actually took a point from Stoliarenko because she wasn't engaging it on the feet. She kept flopping to her back, and the ref just took a point. And I think it was that same fight where it was the end of the second round, and she was so gassed out that her coach had to come over and grab her, drag her back to her corner, and then she like passes out in her corner. The fight's over. So her cardio is very poor. The weight cutting issue is another thing as well. I like Alexis Davis here, but how confident can you really be? So I'll take Alexis Davis, but this is definitely a 1-800-GAMBLER. There's not even any props I'd look at as well. We see that Alexis Davis, there actually is money coming in on Davis. It looks like she's now minus 210. Julio Stoliarenko, she is plus 180. The fight goes to decision is minus 225. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 175. This is just a straight up pass for me. No props, no nothing for me. Weezy, does the money line stick out? Do any props stick out to you? What do you like in here?
Yeah, just stay away. That's what, you know, I don't want to pay that much juice for a fight goes to decision. And, you know, especially when these ladies are both really good on the ground and could potentially get a submission. 89% sub rate for Stoliarenko and her wins. Alexis Davis, a 40% sub rate in her wins. You know, that's 8 wins career by submission for Alexis Davis. So, yeah, I'm just staying away from this one. Looking forward to that Witt-Rowe fight, which we'll be following.
Let's go. But yeah, 1-800-GAMBLER. If I come to you later in the week and say, Weezy, I'm really tempted, and David, just call the orderlies and have them send backup for this one, all right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I already told you once. I warned you once on this fight. You were saying, I'm thinking about betting Davis. Are you going to call the orderlies? I'm like, you're damn right I am.
Oh, I definitely need the orderlies thinking about that. But we'll move on to the next fight. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight. We've been talking about this fight all week. We have Jason Witt going against Phil Rowe. We have Jason Witt, 35 years old, 5'10", 70-inch reach. Phil Rowe, 31 years old, 6'3", 80-inch reach. So I think the tail of the tape is probably one of the most significant things in this fight. Phil Rowe is going to be 4 years younger. Phil Rowe is going to have a 5-inch height advantage and a 10-inch reach advantage. I think when this is on the feet, I think Witt is absolutely screwed, and for a lot of reasons. For one, that 10-inch reach, and for two, I really like the striking of Rowe, and he has a ton of power as well. It may not look like he's throwing hard, but he is hitting very, very hard. He has a 100% finish rate, half of those by knockout, half of those by submission, so he's very well-rounded. And we talked about bad chins in the Gordon fight, and I think Jason Witt, pound for pound, is right up there with Malcolm Gordon in terms of a bad chin. This guy's chin is awful. 5 knockout losses. He gets hurt a ton. Almost got finished in that Barberena fight in that third round. Remember when he dropped his mouthpiece in the third round and went to pick it up during the fight? So yeah, another guy that has a very questionable chin. This was interesting. So I watched the interview with Jason Witt, and he was talking about how he handpicked this fight. Him and James Krause handpicked this fight. The fight went off, and he said he wanted to stick with this fight, and he said he handpicked it because he sees a lot of holes in Rowe's game and holes that Witt can exploit, which that's very interesting to me because I kind of like this spot for Rowe. The only thing I'll say about Rowe is Rowe's takedown defense is kind of questionable, but his get-up game is very good. I've seen him, pull guard at times, which he won't want to do that in this fight. But Rowe's a very good grappler, brown belt in BJJ, I believe they both are. And yeah, if Witt can take down Rowe for 15 minutes straight, out wrestle him for 15 minutes, that's definitely a path to victory. I just think that's going to be, much easier said than done against a much, much bigger Phil Rowe. And again, we saw Witt really slow down in the Barberena fight, and I think it's only going to take one shot, one knee, one shot for him to get Witt out of here. We see in their last 5 fights, Witt is 3-2 in his last 5. He made his debut against Takashi Sato. He got finished in, I think, less than a minute by knockout, showing that chin of his. Then his next fight against Cole Williams, which I did bet him. I want to say he was a dog in that fight, but he went out there and submitted Cole Williams. And after that, he went out there against Matt Semmelsberger, got finished, I think, in like the first 15 seconds, and then went out there against a washed Barberena and won a very, very close decision where he did take down Barberena, I think, like 6-7 times in that fight. As far as Phil Rowe, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Gabe Green, lost by decision, had a very good kind of a comeback win against Leon Shabazian on the Contender Series where he got hurt very bad in the first round and he bounced back in the second, got that finish. And then he had a very good win against Orion Kosuke where he lost the first round in that fight as well. I remember looking at the live odds on that fight. It was like something crazy. Like Kosuke was like -500, -600. And that's kind of the style of Phil Rowe. He kind of grows into the fight. He kind of gets better as the fight goes on. Great output, great cardio. And I kind of like Witt to have success early in terms of getting takedowns here. But I think as the fight goes on, it's going to be Rowe's fight. And I think he's going to take over and eventually finish Witt at some point in this fight. But yeah, Weezy, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this one. What do you think about this one here?
Yeah, great stylistic matchup here. Let's just go through the numbers here real quick. It's going to be Jason Witt, who's much more experienced, right? He's got about 120 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 15 more professional fights than Phil Rowe, and he's got about a year and a half more in the game. So Jason Witt, in less than 9 years, has 26 fights. So the dude's fighting about 3 times a year, while Phil Rowe fights about 1.5 times a year. It's Witt who has 4 UFC fights. Rowe has 3. So Rowe actually has more minutes in the UFC cage, as the average fight time for Jason Witt in the UFC has been only 5.8 minutes. We see a 58% finish rate in Witt's wins. We see a 100% finish rate in Rowe's wins. And I think a lot of people think of Rowe as just a striker. 4 wins by submission, 4 wins by knockout for Rowe. Rowe has been finished in 1 of his 3 losses, while for Witt, it's been 100% of his 7 losses have come inside the distance. So we got 10 combined losses for these guys. 8 of them have come inside the distance. So it's pretty safe to say that this fight has a good chance of finishing inside the distance. When we look at the striking numbers in the UFC here, not a huge sample size, but both of these guys showing power. Both of these guys are showing bad chins. So both, while this fight is on the feet, it does look like somebody could absolutely land a big shot. And then we see in Jason Witt's numbers in these 4 UFC fights a really good control time grappling efficiency here, as he's gotten 45% of his 22 takedowns. He's averaging 6.46 takedowns per 15 minutes, 1.29 submission attempts per 15 minutes, and he's out controlling his opponents at like a 13-to-1 ratio here, 51.5% to 4.3%. But to be fair, he's attempted 22 takedowns and his opponents have only attempted 1. So you would expect him to be out-controlling his opponents by a big rate here. But he is doing exactly what you would expect Jason Witt to do in a win in his career statistics here in the UFC. If he's going to beat Phil Rowe, he doesn't want to stand on the feet with somebody who's got a 10-inch reach advantage, who's got a power advantage, and, it's just frankly the better striker. So I think that Witt, you have to have confidence that he's going to wrestle. And when you see 22 takedown attempts in 4 fights, when you see 6.46 takedowns per 15 minutes, when you see 51.5% control time out of 23 minutes of cage time, you see that he's doing very well. Phil Rowe, though, in his own right, like you say, he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He trains over at Fusion XL. So this guy's on the mat regularly with Jacare Souza and Rodolfo Vieira. So people who think that Rowe is not going to be able to grapple here, or that he's not going to be dangerous even when he's on his back, I think that's a big mistake to make, because when you watch the tape on this guy, anytime people are on top of him, he is absolutely threatening with submissions. He has extremely long legs, which make him be able to get submissions that other people can't, frankly. He can throw up those legs and create a bunch of different attacks from the bottom position. He's very well schooled on the ground. He's been taken down 5 times, showing only 50% takedown defense, but he's only been controlled 28% of his UFC career, and that is about 10 minutes on 10 takedown attempts. But he's never been submitted in his career, and it does look like Jason Witt is fighting the tougher competition at the UFC level, as Rowe has only fought Kosi and Gabe Green and Leon Shabazian, while Jason Witt has had a couple of veterans in his mix with Takashi Sato and Brian Barberena, and then Semmelsberger's new to the promotion, and Cole Williams. That's not a very good win. That's one of the worst guys that's ever been in the UFC. Guy missed weight by 5 pounds in both of his UFC fights and got his ass shaved out there and finished inside the distance in both of them. So, this is very interesting, because Rowe's a better grappler than people think he is. And while I think, like you said, Witt should be able to have some success with the wrestling and the control time early, I think as this fight goes on, it's going to be harder for him to get those takedowns. Some of those strikes are going to pile up for Rowe, and we could see a late finish here. Very, very compelling fight here in the welterweight division, and I can't wait for this one.
100%. People in the chat saying if Witt doesn't get KO'd, he can maybe win. And I mean, yeah, there's a path to victory there for sure for Witt. It's just it's hard to see Witt going out there and wrestling Rowe for 15 minutes straight. I mean, it's possible, but I'm kind of thinking maybe like a Rowe live bet situation. Like, again, he was probably a big dog going into the Shabazian second round after losing the first convincingly. He was a big dog against Orion Kosuke after losing the first round as well. So maybe like a live bet situation after the first round. Maybe we get Rowe at dog odds. And as of now, it looks like there is some money coming in on the Witt side. Rowe up, if it will load, Rowe's minus 150 now, and then Jason Witt is plus 130. We see that the over-under is set.
Did you freeze there, Brady? Am I the only one that's seeing Brady froze over there? I think he might have. But yeah, this is going to be a good one, man. I don't know exactly where the lines are. Let me. Oh, you know what? I don't have my best fight odds up here, you guys. But yeah, Phil Rowe versus Jason Witt. Phil Rowe around minus 150. Witt around plus 130 here. I am liking Phil Rowe to win this fight, because the chin is a concern really for both guys. As we've seen Phil Rowe get knocked down on 2% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed in the UFC. So he's been knocked down 3 times in 157 significant strikes absorbed. And Jason Witt's been knocked down on 2.78% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed in the UFC. And that's only 72 strikes. So he's been knocked down twice. And this guy's only spent like 10 minutes on the feet. So I think as long as this fight is on the feet, somebody's probably going to get served. And then I think on the ground, Rowe presents enough of a submission threat for me to be looking at the fight doesn't go to decision here as a very nice option. And if I'm on the Rowe side, I do have to feel like Rowe inside the distance is probably the way to go, because Jason Witt, when he loses inside the distance 100% of the time. And that's in a 7-fight loss sample size and in a 26 fight total sample size. So yeah, I like Rowe inside the distance here.
Did I like freeze or something?
Yeah, I think you froze. And then I was thinking, because I was having internet problems, that maybe that was on my end. So I was like, you know what? I better just talk just in case these people can see me and they can't see Brady. So that's what I did. I do what I do best. I run my damn mouth.
Where'd I cut off at?
You were talking about, I think, the lines. We had just talked about how Rowe was -150,
Okay.
Witt +130, and I think that's where you went out.
All right. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen again. But yeah, I mean, it looks like money's coming in on Witt. I see Witt +130, Rowe -150. Yeah, I don't hate the fight doesn't go. What I was kind of saying though was, I think if Witt's going to win, I think it's going to be by decision, which is sitting at +295, and I think if Rowe wins, it's going to be inside the distance, 100% finish rate, and all of Witt's loss is coming by finish. Rowe inside the distance is +112, +110. Do you think Witt can finish Rowe? I don't think he's going to submit Rowe, and I don't really think he's going to strike with him. So do you see? Are you kind of seeing it like me? Do you think Witt by decision or Rowe by finish?
The thing about Rowe getting finished is I feel like Gabe Green easily could have finished him if he didn't go to the ground with him in the third round. Remember how badly Gabe Green busted up that neuro-ass calf of Phil Rowe in their fight? And, I think that Gabe Green could have finished him. So you never know. Maybe Witt lands a ton of calf kicks. Maybe that's the hole that he saw in Phil Rowe's game, the biggest hole that Gabe Green exposed in him in Phil Rowe's loss in the UFC. So maybe that's what Witt sees. Maybe it's Witt seeing the 50% takedown defensive Rowe. But like I say, man, Rowe's dangerous from his back. So I think he's got the BJJ to be very dangerous from his back, even when Witt does take him down. So yeah, I really think that this is going to be Rowe's fight. And every minute that this thing is on the feet, and if I have a Jason Witt ticket in my hand, I'm terrified because Rowe hits hard. He's got a 10-inch reach advantage, and Witt folds like a lawn chair, man, when he gets hit. So
rank these in order. Worst chins: Jordan Wright, Jason Witt, Malcolm Gordon. 1, 2, 3. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I would have to. So let's see. I would go. Oh, God, it's got to be Malcolm Gordon, because he's getting like absolutely frozen by dudes that weigh 125 pounds. I mean, like if Bruno Silva hit us in the mouth, I mean, like we'd be a meme too, So
Yeah.
It's hard to put Jordan right there. But, the fact that he got knocked out by a hot shower, I would say that he would be number 2. And then I'm going to put Witt 3. But that is up for debate, man. That is not set in stone for sure.
Yeah, definitely the 3 worst chins I could think of. But yeah, another good fight here. Witt Rowe, looking forward to that one. We'll keep moving on. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Just hit over 100 people in here, which is awesome considering we do have some playoff football on. But by the looks of it, last time I checked, it was 0-0. So maybe it's kind of a boring game. So maybe this is more fun. Looking at some stats here, talking some fights. When we keep moving on, though, with the next fight, we have Chidi Njokuani going against Marc-André Barriault. We have Njokuani, 33 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. Marc-André Barriault, 31 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. And what stuck out to me initially was the tail of the tape. Njokuani is going to be 2 years older, but he's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. And I think this is pretty significant, a 6-inch reach advantage as well. Njokuani, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, had a very good win on the Contender Series. He looked really good against Mario Souza, who is very good on the mat. It was actually Njokuani who was able to go out there and control him for 6.5 minutes of that fight. He was able to stuff 3 out of 4 takedowns as well. Just a very impressive performance for Njokuani. Marc-André Barriault, he is 2-2 and 1 no contest. That 1 no contest coming against Oscar Bihoda. That was the best version of Marc-André Barriault we've seen, but he did test positive for PED, so we kind of saw why there. But, I like Marc-André Barriault. This guy is very well-rounded. He has good cardio. He has toughness. He has good output, which those are all great things to have. But, this is a fight where initially I thought Njokuani can be taken down. When he is losing, it's mostly because people are taking him down. He is getting stuck on his back. He's getting submitted. And, when you take a look at Marc-André Barrio, it's not really his game. And he has a 25% accuracy. He has 2 takedowns landed. One of them was in the Pahota fight where he tested positive for PEDs. So he's not really actively going out there and trying to grapple. And if he doesn't do that in this fight, I kind of like Njokuani. I really like his striking. He hits very hard. And again, in a fight that's probably going to play out on the feet, I think that 6-inch reach advantage is pretty huge there. So it is a close fight, but I'm kind of on the Njokuani side. Not running to the betting window, especially because this line has completely moved. I think Njokuani was like plus 150, something crazy like that a couple days ago. It's now minus 110. I even see Njokuani as a slight favorite on some books. So money is pouring in on him, and I can kind of see why. I think this should be lined pretty close here. But what do you think about this one, Weezy?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's one of the ones I haven't been able to watch tape on yet. But, we just know from Njokuani being in Bellator for as long as he has it, this dude's fought some killers, man. Koreshkov, Salter, some guys that'll really pin you to the mat and just make you look bad there. And that's not Barrio's game. Barrio has 6 UFC fights. He's only gotten 2 takedowns in those 6 UFC fights. So he's not the kind of guy who's going to go out there, take Chidi down and, pull a Jason Witt on him and get over 50% control time. Marc-André Barrio is a really good kickboxer in his own right. And like you say, he's got great output and he's got great cardio and he hits hard. So this should be a good striking match here on the feet. The numbers that we're seeing for Chidi are freakish because he had such an amazing performance against Mario Sosa, landing 5.61 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 1.12. 84% striking accuracy, 1 knockdown and 65 strikes landed, and 71% striking defense. So we could pretty much throw those numbers away. It's from one performance. It was from a fantastic performance. But what we do have is a 6-fight sample size for Barrio here. And he's landing almost 1 more significant strike per minute than he absorbs. He throws 1 more significant strike attempt per minute than his opponents do. He's shown 46% striking accuracy. He's gotten, I think, 2 knockdowns in 6 fights, and he's never been knocked down in 6 UFC fights and 419 significant strikes absorbed. And he's fought some hard hitters for sure. Dalcha, Abu Izatar, Jun-Young Park, all those guys hit hard. So Marc-André Barrio definitely has a chin here. And Barrio's pretty good with his takedown defense at 71%. He's been taken down 1.77 times for 15 minutes, and he's been controlled about 17 minutes of his UFC career on those 10 takedowns and 34 takedown attempts. So, he does get held down for a decent amount of time, but he's not exactly John Phillips out there losing 14 out of every 15 minutes on the ground. So I do think that this is going to be a kickboxing match. And if it's a kickboxing match, you got to believe somebody like Njokuani, with the experience that he has in that area, added up to that 6-inch reach advantage that he has, is going to make a big difference here. But this is his UFC debut, and Marc-André Barrio is going to be doing this for the 7th time. So it's going to be an interesting fight. We really don't have much in the way of strength of schedule stats here. Barrio is beating guys with winning records with 6 total fights and a 1.25 ratio. And he's fighting guys with that ratio, and he's beating guys with a 1.5 and 0.5 record. So less experienced guys, but winning fighters nonetheless. I see why it's lined closely, but boy, that 6-inch reach advantage for a fight that looks like it's going to take place on the feet. And also you add to the fact that we've seen, an uptick in Njokuani's ground game there, especially the way he dominated Sosa on the ground in the Contender Series fight. I'm kind of leading Cheetah here, but, I've been cashing bets on Barrio lately, and he's made a fan out of me. So I'm not really picking one way or another here because I don't have enough Njokuani stats to kind of like hang my hat on anything to hear is why he's better than Barrio in the stand-up.
Yeah, it's such a close fight here. Interesting line movement. It looks like Chidi opened up plus 120, and he was sitting around like plus 140 for a while, and he's now minus 102. Marc-André Barrio sitting at minus 118 on FanDuel. It is a straight pick'em. So yeah, very interesting line movement there. Yeah, I'm probably going to stay away from this one. I think it's going to be a fun fight to sit back and watch. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds, -165. The under 2.5 rounds, +135. The fight goes to decision, -140. The fight doesn't go to decision, +110. Not really any strong lean one way or another. I'm going to pick Chidi, but not with a ton of confidence here. If I could have got him earlier at like +140, sure, I probably would have bet it, but definitely missed out on the line. So I'm probably going to sit back and watch this one. Anything stick out to you? Weezy and Jaquani by decision, +255. People are talking about maybe Barrio late finish, maybe the third round prop. Anything sticking out?
Yeah, Barrio with a third round prop's always a great bet because the guy brings fantastic cardio and output always. That's something you can count on from Power Bar. He always does that. And check it out, dude. Njokuani finished in 6 of his 7 losses, 3 times by submission, 3 times by knockout. So some of the guys, Blood Money in particular in the chat, have been saying that, that this guy will quit if you pressure him. And guess what? What does Barrio always bring? Pressure, pace, conditioning. Oh, yeah. So the one bet that would be sticking out is if I'm on the Barrio side and I think he wins this fight, how about getting a little bit of extra juice and picking Barrio inside the distance here? He's finished 1 of his 2 UFC wins inside the distance, and Chidi Njokuani has been finished in 6 of his 7 professional losses.
There you go. I like it. Yep, we'll have to see, but yeah, really good fight there. We'll keep moving on. We have another fun fight. Hakeem Dawodu going against Michael Tresean. Hakeem, he is 30 years old, 5'8" with a 73-inch reach. Tresean, 30 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. So Tresean is going to have a 3-inch height advantage, but he's going to be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. And kind of like the last fight, I think this fight's going to primarily play out on the feet. We see that in both of these fighters' UFC careers combined, they have only landed 1 takedown. So it's safe to say this is going to be striking, and I think it's going to be a competitive fight. I really do like what I see from Hakeem Dawodu, though, in terms of the striking. This guy throws with a ton of power, very good kicks as well. And Tresean went out there in his last fight against Ludovic Klein and pulled off like a big upset. Ludovic was a huge favorite. Ludovic was, I think, like -300, something crazy like that. But yeah, Tresean went out there and beat him. He has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. I had that loss to Grant Dawson by submission. No shame in that. A decision win over Luis Pena. As far as Hakeem Dawodu, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, and his only loss in his last 5 fights was against Movsar Evloev. So, yeah, this is a really good fight. Weezy, what do you think about this one here?
Another interesting one. We see the losses, like, for instance, Dawodu. He went into that Evloev fight with like nearly 90% takedown defense. And then you saw how good Evloev is at implementing his game plan. So, I think Dawodu, when he got the call to fight Michael Tresean, he looked at the fact that Tresean has attempted 2 takedowns in 4 UFC fights and said, I accept. I want to fight on the feet next time. And that's where he does his best work. He's mean, Hakeem. He looks mean. He hits mean. I mean, he's fun to watch, dude. So, yeah, we talked about the tail of the tape. Tresean is taller, but Dawodu will have the 2-inch reach advantage. Tresean fighting, he's one of those Tiger Schulman boys over there on the East Coast. Fights with a lot of good kickboxers over there in that camp. Shane Burgos, Arce. We can go on and on with Tiger Schulman's. They've brought a lot of guys to the UFC, including Uriah Hall. So, but it's Dawodu, who's got 5 more professional fights, about 60 more minutes in the pro cage. And he's been doing this 2 years longer than Tresean. And he's got 3 more fights at the UFC level and about 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Dawodu's definitely got a reach advantage and an experience advantage here. And he's the better finisher. He's finished 58% of his pro wins, all by knockout, while Tresean has finished 4 of his 9 wins, 2 by knockout, 2 by submission. And in these guys' 3 combined losses, 2 of them have come inside the distance. Dawodu has been submitted once, and Michael Tresean has been submitted in his only professional loss. When we look at the striking numbers for these guys, we see some impressive numbers out of both of them. But in particular, that striking ratio that Hakeem Dawodu is putting out there, Brady, is very impressive. Dude, he's landing 4.72 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 2.39. Not only that, he throws 3.7 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents. That's the mark of somebody that can absolutely win minutes on the feet. Look at that striking accuracy, almost 47%. He's landed 1 knockdown in 7 UFC fights, but more importantly, a 62.15% striking defense in 7 UFC fights. And he is basically outlanding his opponents at a 2-to-1 significant strike ratio here. 2-to-1. So this guy is definitely winning minutes on the feet. He's only been knocked down once in 7 UFC fights. That's 0.17 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes, the same as he lands. Now, Tresean also is landing almost one more significant strike per minute than his opponents are. He throws a tiny bit more volume, and he's more accurate on the feet, landing at a 53.5% rate, and very good defensively in his own right, with his striking defense sitting at 59%. But I like Dawodu's volume. I like the little additional power that Dawodu brings. He does land the flashier strikes, but that throwing 3.8 more significant strike attempts per minute than your opponents and landing at a 2-to-1 ratio over your opponents makes me believe that Hakeem Dawodu will be the one winning minutes on the feet here. And then when we look at the grappling, like you said, these guys have got 11 combined UFC fights and have combined for one takedown. Michael Tresean has controlled his opponents 16% of his UFC career, and for Dawodu, it's 6.72%. And we know that Tresean really doesn't he's only gotten one takedown, so that control time that he's gotten is more than likely because of reverses or just cage control time rather than him taking people down and grinding on top of them. So both of these guys get out-controlled by more than a 2-to-1 ratio on the ground. But like I say, Dawodu had 90% takedown defense going into that Evloev fight. Now it's sitting at 67.5%. But I think that 12 of those takedowns might have been from Movsar. So, this is going to be a boxing match. I think Dawodu is going to be the one winning minutes on the feet and landing the more impressive strikes. And when we go over here to the strength of schedule, we're going to see that Dawodu is fighting the slightly more experienced competition, but it's Michael Tresean who's fighting the better win-loss ratio guys. The wins pretty similar for both guys. Better ratio for Dawodu, better ratio for Tresean, more experience for Dawodu, and the losses, they're both losing to quality competition. It's a close fight, but I do think that Dawodu will be the minute winner on the feet here. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think so as well. What I noticed in Dawodu is when he's like struggling against guys, it's because they're taking him down. Like in the Tuhugov fight, Tuhugov was able to take him down once. That was a split decision, which a lot of people thought it shouldn't have been a split decision, but it was. Tuhugov was able to take down Hakeem once, and he was able to control him for only 2 minutes. In the Arce fight, Arce took him down, took his back at one point, another split decision win, but he, is clearly outstriking these guys. He outstruck Tuhugov 69-35. He outstruck Julio Arce 55-32. So the striking is definitely not a problem, but the problem with Hakeem in some of these fights is people are taking him down. Like even in the Bochniak fight, Bochniak took him down twice, split decision win. He outlands him 103-42. This is a fight where you got to believe that you're not going to have to worry about Tresean taking him down. Tresean only 2 takedowns attempted in 4 UFC fights, and only one of those completed. So, and even if he does, like Dawodu's takedown defense and get-up game is pretty good. I know Evloev took him down 9 times, but that is Evloev. So, yeah, we're kind of seeing it the same here. And Hakeem opened up as a minus 200 favorite. He's currently minus 185. And Tresean opened up plus 170. He's now plus 160. I kind of like Hakeem here. The fight goes to decision, minus 205. Fight doesn't go minus or plus 165. The over set at 2.5 rounds, over 2.5 minus 275. The under plus 200. Kind of liking Hakeem, like you mentioned, he's the more dangerous striker. I don't know if he finishes Tresean. I don't think Tresean has ever been finished. I kind of liking Hakeem by decision, but what are your thoughts on the money line? Do you think it's too wide? Do you think it could be wider, or do you think it's just right?
I'm sorry, where do you have the money line right now?
Minus 185 Hakeem.
Oh, boy, yeah, that's a little wide. Tresean is always in close fights. He finds a way to make it close. He's very responsible on the feet. Both of these guys are very defensively responsible. But, I think what makes me like Dawodu here is when you look at the previous fights for Dawodu, these guys are trying to take him down. 0 for 0 in the first fight, his opponents, but then it's 0 for 4 on takedowns, 2 for 12, 0 for 1, 1 for 3, 1 for 7. Before the Evloev fight, he was 17, 20. He had only been taken down 4 out of 27 attempts. And then even in those fights, on those 4 takedowns, he's getting controlled for 111 seconds by Bochniak, 56 seconds for Tukugov, or I'm sorry, 56 seconds for Arce, 123 for Tukugov. That's not enough to win fights. So, I wouldn't bet Dawodu here. I think I'd bet Dawodu by decision. What's Dawodu by decision? That would be the way to go, in my opinion, because Trezano really has only been finished by submission.
Yeah, plus 100, plus 120, my bad.
Yeah, see, that would be probably how I would play this.
There you go. I do want to hit up some people in the chat here. 2 cents saying, I remember thinking Klein beat Trezano. Yeah, I did as well, but
it was close, man, for sure.
Fight. So the dog got it. The big dog got it there, but it was definitely a close fight. What's up, MMA Locker Room Mills? How you doing? Eric saying, make sure you hit the like button on the stream. I agree. There are 109 of you of us in here. Help the fellas out. Appreciate you, Eric. Go check out Eric and his stuff that he does on his channel, Blood Money, as well, putting out the content. Appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. But we'll keep moving on. Gabriel, I'm sorry about your Chiefs. I did bet the Bengals a spread there, but I was not expecting the Bengals to completely pull off the upset there. But yeah, they'll be back. They'll be back. All right, we'll move on to the next fight here, and we have Miles Johns going against John Castaneda. We have Miles Johns, 27 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. John Castaneda, 30 years old, 5'6" with a 71-inch reach. So Miles Johns is going to be 3 years younger. He's going to be 1-inch height advantage, but it's going to be Castaneda that has a 5-inch reach advantage. Miles Johns is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Cole Smith. Very, very weird fight. I remember Cole Smith, I think, took his back the whole first round. Second round was kind of close, and then Miles Johns clearly wins that third. Very close, weird fight there. In the next fight, he got knocked out by Mario Batista. I believe it was a flying knee in, I think, the third round. And then he knocks out Kevin Natividad, and then he knocks out Anderson dos Santos. So 4-1 in his last 5 fights. As far as John Castaneda, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Nathaniel Wood. I believe it was really short notice as well. Lost by decision. Showed a lot of toughness in that fight. And then he knocks out Eddie Wineland. I believe it was a slight dog as well. I'm pretty impressed with both guys. I like both guys a lot. Miles Johns' wrestling background, has a ton of power. He showed it in his last 2 fights with back-to-back knockout wins. Again, he has that wrestling, but in the UFC, he hasn't really used it as much as I'd like to see. But he hasn't really needed to that much. 3-1 in the UFC thus far. The only loss coming by knockout in that third round. John Castaneda is very interesting. He's a guy that also has a wrestling background. And he's a BJJ brown belt, very good on the mat. He's very tough, very durable. He throws a ton of volume. And I like what I see out of John Castaneda as well. The cardio is definitely there as well. I think this is a very, very good fight. It's going to be a very fun one as well. Weezy, do you like this fight as well?
Yeah, I do. I was watching tape on both of these guys today, and they're both great. I mean, they're both super fun to watch. It's Castaneda, who's a lot more experienced, though. 10 more professional fights, almost 100 more minutes in the pro cage than Miles, and he's been doing this almost 2 years longer. And at the UFC level, it's Johns who has 5 UFC level fights, while Castaneda only has 3. So about 15 more minutes in the UFC cage for Miles Johns. Johns a 50% career sub rate, while Castaneda 72%. And then Miles Johns has been finished in his only loss. It was the flying knee that he caught from Batista. And then Castaneda, very tough. He's only been finished in 1 out of his 5 losses, been finished once in 23 professional fights. So we got decent sample sizes here. And Miles Johns showing some really nice numbers in the striking here. Landing 4 and only absorbing 2.5 significant strikes a minute. It's a very impressive ratio there. He's landing a knockdown on over 1% of the significant strikes that he's landed. That's 3 knockdowns in 5 UFC fights. And man, that knockdown against Anderson dos Santos was an absolute thing of beauty. He steps in with a left hook to the body and then just comes with the overhand right, caught him right on the chin, completely clean. Santos was out before he even hit the ground. It was an absolutely gorgeous knockdown. So Johns does have a lot of power. Even when he steps in with that jab, it hurts. So, and then we look at Castaneda, and he's hurt some people. I mean, when he caught Wineland, I believe, with a head kick and then finished him up at the end of the first round there. This guy is definitely a finisher when he steps in there. 72% finish rate in 18 professional wins, a much better finish rate than Johns. And when you look at the regional scene competition for Castaneda, he's fighting some real dudes. Guys like Rojo and Alde, and that American fight was really good. Castaneda's been around and fought some really tough dudes here. So we see Johns being a big favorite here, but when you look at the striking, they're both pretty good on the feet. It's just Johns, it just pops a little bit more. He's got a little more power, and I think he puts it together a little bit prettier. And then on the ground, Johns, like you said, only 30% on his takedowns. Castaneda only 25% on his takedowns. Castaneda's fights have been taking place at striking range for 97% of his UFC career, while for Johns, it's about 25%. So I'm sorry, 75% at striking range. So neither one of these guys is particularly committed to the wrestling. And then you look at Miles Johns with 92% takedown defense, and Castaneda, despite the fact he's been taken down 4 times, he's only been controlled for 2.26% of his career in the UFC. So that means his guys are getting less than 30 seconds of control time per takedown. So his get-up game is excellent. This should be taking place on the feet. And both of these guys get out-volumed by their opponents on the feet. It's just that Miles Johns showing a 72% striking defense thus far in the UFC in 5 UFC fights, while for Castaneda, it's 55%. So I see why the line is in favor of Johns here. This should take place on the feet. Either one of these guys has the wrestling chops to be able to get this fight to the ground should they want to. But if it does stay on the feet, it feels like Miles is going to have more power. It feels like Miles is going to be more defensively responsible and potentially just win the minutes on the feet. So I'm leaning Miles Johns here. When we look at the strength of schedule, neither one of these guys has blown it out of the water thus far in the UFC. So the toughest opponent any of them have faced thus far has been Nathaniel Wood, and that's on the Castaneda side. So I would say the strength of schedule is actually very similar, as both of these guys have fought really good regional scene competition and low-level UFC competition.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we take a look at the line. We see that Johns is a pretty decent sized favorite. He opened up minus 270 or minus 225, and he's now minus 192. And Castaneda opened up plus 190. He is now plus 167. So yeah, money is coming in on Castaneda, and I do like that plus money as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to hop on, but it looks like I might have to very soon because this line is closing fast. Johns, he is or the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over is minus 170. The under is plus 140. The fight goes to decision is minus 150, and the fight doesn't go is plus 120. Johns inside the distance, plus 225. Castaneda inside the distance, plus 475. Johns by decision, plus 135. Castaneda by decision, plus 435. I see this being a very close fight. Originally, I thought that Johns would probably try to implement the takedowns, but just watching the UFC career of Johns, it's not something he's really tried to do all that much. And even if he does, he talked about the very good get-up game of John Castaneda, having a wrestling background in his own right, BJJ brown belt. So even if Johns does try to wrestle, how much success is he going to have? And on the feet, I do probably favor Johns because of the power, but I don't think he should be like minus 220, 225 here. So I think there is some serious value here on Castaneda, and the line is closing pretty rapidly here. Any thoughts on the money line? Any thoughts on any props, Weezy?
Yeah, there's definitely money coming in on Castaneda, and these guys have similar skill sets like we talked about. They're both really well-rounded mixed martial artists here. Johns is only 27 years old. Castaneda is 30, and it's Castaneda who has that nice experience advantage, and the finishing advantage. But in the UFC, we've really seen some really slick boxing out of Miles Johns, and that power. You can't ignore 3 knockdowns in 5 fights at this level. Miles Johns has got some serious power, and I think that's probably what's going to make the difference in this fight is that Johns' power here. But it's a close matchup, and I see why the people who are taking Castaneda at plus money are doing so, because I think when you just kind of go skill for skill down the line, both of these guys are very well-rounded and have very few weaknesses in their game, so it could potentially be a very close fight.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me how he's a bigger favorite here against Castaneda than he was against 36-year-old Anderson Dos Santos, right?
Yeah, and he destroyed Dos Santos, man. It looked like he could have finished that fight whenever he wanted to. He had chopped up that calf of Dos Santos. That was something that worked really well for him. Castaneda fights out of both stances, though, so I don't know if he's going to leave that calf there for him like Anderson did. But yeah, it's going to be a damn good fight. I really enjoyed myself watching tape on both of these guys today. This is a good fight flying under the radar here.
It's definitely a very, very good fight. What's up, Boston Nick? How you doing, buddy? We'll keep moving on, though. We have a couple more fights to get through. We have Julian Erosa going against Steven Peterson. We have Erosa, 32 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Steven Peterson, 31 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Erosa, 1 year older, but he's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and also a 4-inch reach advantage as well. Erosa, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss to Julio Arce, a decision win against Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson. He submitted Sean Woodson, right?
Yeah, he did. He definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I must. Every once in a while, these things. Yeah, I have to do that part of it by hand, and I am far from being perfect.
No, you're good. It happens. It's technology. Knockout win against Nate Lambert, that flying knee, and then a knockout loss to Sungwoo Choi, and then a submission win against Charles Jourdain. So yeah, it looks like 5 finishes in a row in some Erosa fights here. Steven Peterson, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Had a very nice win in his last fight against Chase Hooper. He did miss weight in that fight, and I did bet on Peterson in that fight, but I think the weight miss was definitely a advantage for him. Did not really enjoy the fight IQ having a bet on Peterson. He kept going to the mat with Chase Hooper, but it worked out, and he was able to beat Chase Hooper there by decision. Yeah, this is a fight where, skill for skill, it's Erosa all day. I really like the game of Erosa. He's somebody that's going to come forward. He's going to pressure the whole time. He's going to throw a ton of volume. He's well-rounded. He has good cardio, very tough guy as well. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to like about Julian Erosa. The one thing I don't like, and there's 2 things. The 2 things I don't like about Erosa is his striking defense is very bad. This guy blocks punches with his face, and his chin is also very, very bad. Very, very questionable. This guy's been knocked out like 5 or 6 times, just like Jason Witt. So the one knock on him would be his chin is questionable, and he has been cracked a lot. But with Steven Peterson, I feel like he's not going to have to worry about that too much. Steven Peterson, I think like since 2016, 2017, only 1 knockout win. So I think Erosa should be fine here. I think it's a pretty good spot for him. We do see Erosa as a big favorite, but I don't know if I'm going to be lining up to lay like minus 300 on Julian Erosa here, but I will pick him to win pretty comfortably. Weezy, what do you think about this fight here?
Yeah, both of these guys are pretty experienced. 35 professional fights for Erosa, 28 for Peterson. Combined, these guys have got about 650 minutes in the cage. 350 for Erosa, just over 300 for Peterson. 17 UFC fights combined between these two guys, 180 minutes in the cage. So, it's 2 veterans squaring off here, man. It's going to be a very interesting fight. Both of these guys pressure. Both of these guys throw a ton of volume. And both of these guys are pretty comfortable everywhere. You mentioned it. Erosa's been knocked out 5 times in 9 losses. So he is a guy you can absolutely finish by knockout. On the other hand, Steven Peterson's only been finished once by knockout in 9 professional losses. So maybe if you're on the Erosa side, maybe you're betting him to win by decision, because it seems like it's awfully tough to finish Ocho Peterson here. When we look at the striking statistics, both these guys get hit more than they hit their opponents. 5.55 landed per minute, 5.9 absorbed for Erosa. You mentioned the piss poor striking defense sitting at 50%, a 1.5% knockdowns per total significant strikes absorbed. So he has been knocked down, it looks like 7 times in UFC fights for Erosa, while Steven Peterson's never been knocked down in 7 UFC fights and 511 significant strikes absorbed. But it's not like Peterson's got a bunch of power either, as he's only landed 1 knockdown in 428 significant strikes landed, while Erosa has landed 2 in 458. So Erosa showing a little more power on the feet, but a lot more chinniness, while Peterson just seems to be a scrapper that can, kind of dish out whatever he takes, and is going to be very hard to knock down. Peterson, though, 37.5% striking accuracy, not good. Not a ton of power like we mentioned, but at least he's not chinny. So this is going to be a battle, man. Erosa's gotten 8 takedowns out of 16 attempts. He's controlled his opponents about 12% of the time, been controlled 18% of the time. Not great takedown defense for Erosa, but a good get-up game, as he's been held down for about 16 minutes of his UFC career on 24 takedown attempts and 10 takedowns, while Peterson has been held down for about 10 minutes on 6 takedowns. So, both of these guys give a bit more than a minute of control time per takedown that they absorb, and they both get some control time, but not much. Erosa 50% on his takedown accuracy, 1.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Peterson a little bit better than that at 1.86 per 15 minutes. And Peterson's out-controlling his opponents at a 2.5 to 1 ratio, while Julian Erosa gets out-controlled by his opponents. The strength of schedule. Erosa's fought the better win-loss ratio competition guys, while Peterson has fought the more experienced guys. The wins are better for Erosa, and the losses are very similar. Man, this fight is going to be close. It's going to be close. I wouldn't lay a ton of juice on Julian Erosa here, man. That's for sure. He's not getting Peterson out of there by all likelihood. Peterson's really tough to finish. I think this thing goes the distance here, and I think it's going to be very, very close. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's going to be it's hard to lay minus 300 on Erosa just because of the chin. Like the chin is the one thing that concerns me. This is a card filled with guys with very questionable chins: Julian Erosa, Jason Witt, Malcolm Gordon, Phil Hawes. Like this could be the chinniest card in UFC history right here. So, I mean, that's the one thing that would concern me. I do want to shout out Big Steve, though. Appreciate the hard work. Yes, Big Steve is on Twitter. Give us a follow. Go check out Big Steve on Twitter. Thank you, Big Steve, for the $20 dono. I have to check you out on Twitter after I get off of here. But yeah, we see that Erosa is a pretty big favorite. He opened up minus 235. He's minus 305. Peterson opened up plus 200. He's now plus 255. So it looks like Erosa is a pretty popular parlay piece this week. Fight goes to decision minus 125. Fight doesn't go to decision is minus 125. Erosa is a very, very good finisher, but Peterson is very durable. Peterson's a good grappler. Like you said, only been knocked out one time. If anything, I'd be worried about Erosa getting knocked out here. I know Peterson hasn't shown a ton of power, but Erosa has no striking defense, and his chin's not all that there. So no strong lean on the fight goes or doesn't go. And I'm not betting Erosa at minus 305, but I'm also not running to the window to bet Peterson's a dog here. I think I'm going to sit back and just watch this one.
What's the fight goes on this one?
It's minus 125.
Minus 120. Okay. Yeah, I'm not running to the window to bet that either, because even though, I do think that if Erosa wins, he wins by decision. And both of these guys are good finishers. I mean, 68% for Peterson and 88% for Erosa of 26 wins. So I mean that's 23 out of 26 wins coming inside the distance for Julian Erosa. 12 by submission, 11 by knockout. So he's a great finisher. But when Peterson's lost 9 times and only been finished once, I think that's going to be the interesting thing to determine whether Erosa can actually finish this guy or whether it's going to go to decision. And I would say probably the decision. 28 professional fights for Peterson, only been finished once. So.
Yeah, kind of with you there. So, yep, no bet for me on this one. Erosa is a big favorite. I don't know if I want to get there. We'll talk about another big favorite that I do not want to get to in a little bit. But first, we have this fight, Treyshawn Gore, Bryan battle. Looking forward to this one. Treyshawn Gore, he is 27 years old. He is 6 foot and not sure on the reach typology or UFC stats does not have it, but I went back and watched The Ultimate Fighter, and I want to say it was like 73.5-inch reach around there. So, Battle's going to have like a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Battle with that 77-inch reach, and Battle's going to have a 1-inch height advantage as well, and they're both 27. Gore, he is 3-0 professionally. He did have 2 fights on The Ultimate Fighter, 1 win by decision, 1 win by knockout. He had an amateur career as well. But in his 3 pro wins, he has a split decision win. He has a knockout win, which I think it was either a doctor's stoppage or like a cut stoppage. Something happened like that. It wasn't a knockout. It was like a doctor stoppage.
Dude, it was crazy. Let me tell you what happened in that fight. So they're going at it on the ground, and Gore is on the bottom, and he had hurt this guy with some leg kicks earlier in the fight. Gore takes him down, gets reversed by this guy, and this guy tries to finish the fight at the end of the first round. He comes kind of close. He's looking good. He gets up after the round is over, and his leg just completely gives out on him. It looked like he had maybe torn every ligament in one of those knees. He went down like a sack of potatoes. So I don't know what happened there, but Treyshawn, I think, landed a big leg kick, and it just ruined this guy's leg.
Oh, shit. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does have a ton of power. We'll talk about that. Bryan Battle, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. A little more experience as well. Had that submission win over Gilbert Urbina in his UFC debut. Very good win there. And yeah, this is a very interesting fight. You have Treyshawn Gore, only 3 pro fights, which is definitely a concern. Also coming off of an injury, which is another concern. But I really like what I see from this guy. That performance he had against Gilbert Urbina, Ultimate Fighter, was very good. He knocked this guy down, I want to say like 4 or 5 times. Showed how powerful he really is. Bryan Battle, this is a guy that kind of surprised me on the Ultimate Fighter. He had that win over, I think it was against Petrosky, where a lot of people were counting him out, including me. But he went out there, he survived the early storm. He was actually able to submit Petrosky, which kind of shocked me. And then he went out there and submitted Urbina. So he's shown a good ground game. He's shown a lot of volume. He's shown great cardio as well. He's shown toughness. I really like what I see out of Bryan Battle. This guy's very well-rounded. So yeah, this should be a fun fight, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, so we've got basically no stats. There's not much I can tell you guys here. So I watched the tape on these guys. This guy Gore hits like a truck. He's very low volume, but he manages his energy well. He throws a lot of leg kicks, and they hurt. And when he hits, it hurts. He comes straight down the middle with those punches. The dude's built like a brick shithouse. And then Battle's one of these kids that has just kind of come in, and he's part of this new breed of mixed martial artists that doesn't really have a base as far as I know. He's just a good athlete who went into an MMA gym one day and just started putting it all together. And you can tell, that this guy has subbed 4 of his 6 losses, but people think of him a little bit more as a striker. It's kind of strange. Great performance against Petrosky in the house. Great performance against Urbina on the Ultimate Fighter finale. Let's see, Battle's fight took place in control time positions more than half the time. Yeah, this is interesting. Like we mentioned, Battle is more experienced. He seems to be a little bit more well-rounded, but I did see Gore do a little bit of wrestling in one of these fights. It was the LJ Jones fight that he wrestled a little bit. And the Prince Ellerby fight took place almost entirely on the feet, if I remember correctly, and it was a very close fight. And then the Eccles one, that one's on Facebook, and it's sideways, so I had to watch it like that, and then luckily it was only about a minute and a half, and Treyshawn finished that one with the sub, with a front choke, a guillotine on the feet. So yeah, I see why Gore is the favorite. He hits hard. There seems to be a mystique about this guy. His combination of athleticism, power, pretty good takedown defense seems to have people believing that he's going to win this fight. But when I look at it, it looks like Battle's the more experienced guy. It looks like he's the more well-rounded guy. He's going to have a reach advantage. He's a little bit taller. And I think he's fought the better competition on the regional scene as well. So, yeah, I don't think I'd lay the juice on Gore here, but I think he's got a really good chance to win this fight. It's just so hard to know. 3 professional fights. 3. So, what do we really know about this guy? I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch this one because we've got 2 really good prospects here that are both only 27 years of age, and we can expect to see a lot of improvements from these guys. It's just hard to know what we're going to see from Gore coming off this little bit of a layoff, coming off the injury. UFC debut under the bright lights. We'll see how it goes for him.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be betting Gore originally. I saw him at minus 130, and the line started moving everywhere else. I went to tape it, and I was just really impressed with Bryan Battle. We talked about the experience advantage, level of competition. I think volume is huge as well. I really like the volume of Bryan Battle, where Gore, he's more powerful, but he's a lot less volume. And then on top of that, like you said, the submission game of Bryan Battle, he's shown a very good submission game, underrated as well. And he's going to have a reach advantage. He's going to have like a 3.5-inch reach advantage. So there's a lot of what I like. I like a lot what I see of Bryan Battle, whereas Treyshawn Gore does have that power. Yeah, we see the line is moving in Gore's favor quite a bit. He is now sitting at minus 163. He opened up minus 135, and Battle opened up plus 115. He's now plus 143. Yeah, I think there's a lot of hype on Gore, and rightfully so. I like this guy a lot, but I'm going to kind of sit back and see where this line goes, and I might be interested in a battle bet depending on where the line does go, because I really do like what I see out of Battle, and there is question marks with Gore. He will be making his UFC debut, whereas Battle has already just fought in the UFC. Gore is coming off of a layoff as well, an injury. So there are some question marks with Gore, but yeah, I'll see where that line goes. We have the fight goes to decision plus 130. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 160. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds minus 105. The under 2.5 rounds minus 125. Gore inside the distance only plus 145. I don't love that. Battle by decision plus 400. Battle inside the distance plus 325. Any props sticking out to you, and any thoughts on the money line?
Yeah, the props aren't really sticking out. I don't know enough about either one of these guys. They're both great prospects. They're both very well-rounded. They're both exciting to watch, but I'm going to probably just watch this one and sit back. I mean, only 10 professional fights between the two of these guys combined, so it's hard when you don't have a lot of tape, and the tape that you do have, you have to rotate your head 90 degrees to the right side to even figure out what the fuck's going on. So in those situations, Vegas has got to make the line. Doesn't mean that I have to bet it, and I believe that I will be staying away from this one. I'm picking Treyshawn Gore to win, but with very, very little confidence.
Yeah, I would not feel confident one way or another on this side. Like, I remember watching one of the Gore fights. You probably saw the same one. I could barely watch it. Like, the cage was in the way. It just was not great. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But no, I will not be laying chalk on Treyshawn Gore. If anything, I'll see where that line goes. Might be a bet on Battle later in the week. Moving on to the people's main event, Phil Hawes, Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey, 35 years old, 6'2" at a 75-inch reach. Once was a fan favorite. Now people are just hate this guy. People are crapping on him. All I see is Sam Alvey slander, and maybe it's because this guy has not won a fight in like 5 years. Like, it's been forever since he's won a fight. Phil Hawes, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 77-inch reach. Phil Hawes is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Just got knocked out against Chris Curtis, but prior to that, he has a nice win over Kyle Dawkins, where he showed some improved cardio, a nice win over Nazardine Imavov, which is going to age very well, and it is aging well in a fight where he did get rocked a bunch of times, but he did show some improved cardio, went out there and starched Malkoun as well. This is a fight where, skill for skill, it's Phil Hawes all day, and it's not even close in the slightest. I really like the skill set of Phil Hawes, improving striking. The cardio's improving. That wrestling's always there, and he's very dangerous as well. It's just like when you have a guy like Phil Hawes, he's very, very chinny, and I'll always have those concerns in the back of my head. And with that cardio, in the Imavov fight, he was able to win those first 2.5 rounds, and he gassed out bad in that third. This guy was on ice skates for most of that third round. And there's another fight against I think it was Julian and Marquez on the Contender Series where he got put out again. And I just don't know if I can trust Phil Hawes at a price tag like this, really, against anybody. And I know it's Sam Alvey. This guy has not won in like 4 or 5 years. It's easy to just say Sam Alvey's going to lose, but Sam Alvey, he does hit hard, and Hawes, his chin is questionable. Sam Alvey does do some good things, like the takedown defense is very, very good, 81%. So if this is striking, you got to favor Hawes in terms of the volume, in terms of the striking. Sam Alvey's not going to win minutes here. Sam Alvey does not win minutes. He's going to back up to the back of the cage. He's going to sit back. He's going to throw very little volume. Hawes is going to be the minute winner, and I get why he's a big favorite, but it's really hard for me to trust a guy in Hawes who, one, the durability is not there. This guy is very, very, very chinny. And then for 2, the cardio is another concern. So you gotta pick Hawes. You gotta pick Hawes, but we'll talk about the price tag in a little bit, and I will be keeping him out of my parlays this week.
I got to tell you what the most exciting angle to this fight for me is that I really truly believe that if Sam Alvey loses another split decision in the UFC, that he will be the first UFC fighter to maul a judge. And how kick-ass would it be, Brady, to see Saul D'Amato get mauled to shit by Sam Alvey, a guy with a smiley face shaved into the back of his skull? I just think that would be one of the greatest UFC moments in the over 20 years of this storied promotion. How cool would it be to see Sam Alvey exact justice on one of these judges and just absolutely pound their head through the floor? That is what I'm really waiting for. I'm hoping for another close split decision loss for Sam Alvey. No disrespect to Sam, I think he's a great fighter. But, the problem with Sam is, and Luke from Sparring with Reality, he brought this up when we had our DraftKings show the last time when Sam Alvey fought Wellington Turman, and he talked about the optics of the way Sam fights. He backs up constantly, he's low volume, and he waits for counters. So even when he's winning on the feet, he's not really winning the minutes because in the judge's eyes, he's backing up, he's waiting, he's not initiating, he's never first. So, and Sam Alvey hasn't knocked anyone down in a long time. So maybe this is the first time he knocks somebody down. I don't know, man. Wellington Turman outboxed this dude. And if he hadn't poked him in the eye like 6 different times, that fight would have been a 30-27 on I think 2 out of the 3 judges' scorecards. So, it's just hard to picture Sam Alvey winning minutes here. It's even harder to picture him, knocking Phil Hawes out. As much as Phil Hawes has gotten hurt by guys like Chris Curtis and Imavov and, Julian Marquez in the past, Sam Alvey's power isn't where those guys are right now. So Alvey, 51 professional fights, 528 minutes in the cage, 222 minutes in the UFC cage, and 22 UFC level fights. I mean, this guy's a veteran. You can't just count him out, but Phil Hawes is better wrestler. He's more powerful. Other than the chin, I think that, this is pretty much Phil Hawes all day. Even Phil Hawes is 100% takedown defense, and he gets 2.42 takedowns for 15 minutes. When you look at the level of competition that these guys are fighting, it's Sam Alvey who's fought the more experienced competition, but the ratio is Hawes all day. And even in the wins, the ratio is Hawes, but it's just Alvey's fighting way more experienced guys. This should be Phil Hawes all day, but I'm predicting a Sam Alvey split decision loss and then a mauling of one of those poor judges, and that'll be just the highlight of my year.
I like it. I like that prediction there. The last time Alvey did win, it was back in 2018 against Jean Vellante, your buddy Jean, who did not accept the movie deal, which I think Jean's making a big mistake. He'll have to get Collier in there instead, right?
Dude, I'm telling you, I got Fat Collier on standby, John. This could be all you, but believe me, if you don't think that Fat Collier is looking for other ways to make money to come off this recent success he just had against Chase Sherman, man, he's going to take that call. So, John, this is your last chance. Huggy Bear's on board. Let's get it done. Netflix is chopping at the bit for any new shows. Squid Game has been over for a long time. Let's give him another hit, baby. Let's give him another hit.
I agree. I totally agree. But other than that, he did have that hilarious win against Marcin Prokhnio, probably one of the funniest fights I've ever seen. But yeah, you take a look at Sam Alvey. He's losing these fights, but he's having very close fights at times. Against Da Un Jung, a lot of people thought that Sam Alvey did win that fight, and you probably could have scored it for him. I personally had it a draw, Sam Alvey won the first 2 rounds, then Da Un Jung knocked him down twice in that 3rd round. But yeah, a lot of people thought that Sam Alvey won, and Sam Alvey actually outlanded Da Un Jung 59-56, and Da Un Jung is good. He's very good. And then the Ryan Spann fight, Alvey outlands Ryan Spann 57-51. Which was very surprising. And Alvey hurt Spann bad in the 3rd round, and Alvey almost gets Spann out of there. And then in the last fight against Wellington Turman, he gets outlanded 69-68. It was a very close fight. He arguably could have won. Wellington Turman lost 2 points. Like, he's having these very, very close fights, but he's just not getting the job done. Like I said, Phil Hawes is better every single aspect of MMA. He's going to be the younger fighter, the much better wrestler, the much better striker. It's just I don't like the chin of Phil Hawes and also the cardio. So Phil Hawes is a big favorite as expected. I'm curious to see where the line does go. Hawes opened up -300. He's now -350. And Sam Alvey opened up +250. He is now +285. If you're going to bet Alvey, which I've seen some people taking some shots on him, which I don't completely hate. I'm not doing it myself. But if you're going to bet Alvey, probably bet him inside the distance. Hawes in his 3 losses have both been inside the distance. I think 2 knockout losses, 1 submission loss. So yeah, if you like Alvey, probably inside the distance. If you like Hawes by decision, +230. Alvey is very tough to finish. The fight goes to decision, +145. The fight doesn't go to decisions, -175. I'm going to pick Hawes, but you couldn't pay me for me to lay -350 on this guy.
the cheekiest bet on this card is not the mauling of Sal D'Amato by an infuriated Alvey. It's actually Alvey inside the distance. You just brought it up. All three of Hawes' losses have come inside the distance. And we talked about the optics of the way that Sam Alvey fights, constantly backing up, never being first, waiting to counter. That's why he loses these split decisions. So it's really hard to see Sam losing or winning anyway, but separating Phil from his consciousness here, which has happened before. And when you're getting Alvey at like almost plus 300 to bet him inside the distance, you might get what is that? What is Alvey inside the distance?
It's like plus 400 on some books, plus 550 on a book.
Yeah, that's not bad, man. That might be the way to look at this one, just to have a super small bet that you could turn like a fifth of a unit into a unit. I mean, that's not bad, because I think that's Sam's only chance to win this fight because the judges just hate this dude.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Like you talked about, the optics are horrendous. Very horrendous.
They are, and that matters. And I mean, it actually shows in the amount of split decisions that this dude has lost. It matters, that you throw volume. It matters that you move forward. It matters that you're first.
Yep, and I have no doubt in my mind that Hawes is going to be outlanding Alvey the entire time.
Yep, he should be. He absolutely should be. And Hawes is just very, very terrifying with that power of his.
We'll have to see if Hawes shows up with that blonde hair or not. If he shows up with blonde hair, I'll be a little more iffy on his price tag. If not, if he doesn't have blonde hair, maybe you take a shot on him.
And if it's a blonde mullet, bet the goddamn house on Alvey.
Yeah. Mullets and blonde hair have been shitting the bed. And doesn't Tresean have a mullet as well?
Yeah, Tresean was the last mullet to cash, I believe, against Ludovic. That broke a lot of people's hearts. But, I mean, you look at a lot of these mullets lately, they have not been performing well. And the blonde hair, I mean, Hani Barcelos, the last one, is a minus 500 favorite to lose with blonde hair. So, yeah, Carlos Felipe gets popped for steroids. And I believe I also heard that it was the tattoo. They're like, son, you can't get a brawler tattoo under your eye, you're cut. So, I mean, I'm hearing things on both sides, but the blonde hair thing, when it's not natural, not going well. Ji-Yeon Kim, let's not forget about that. Didn't she blonde? I mean, what the hell was that? I mean,
I think that's her natural. That's her natural color, though, right?
I hope not, man. She'd be the first Korean to have naturally blonde hair that I know of.
Oh, beautiful head of hair she has for sure. But we'll move on. We have a very fun fight here. This is probably, honestly, the people's main event. My favorite fight on the card, especially. We have Shavkat Rakhmanov going against Carlston Harris, and when they put this together, man, I was disappointed. I like both these guys so much. Rakhmanov, 27 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Carlston Harris, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 76-inch reach. Both these guys are very good. Rakhmanov, the younger guy, 7 years younger. Carlston Harris, if he's going to do anything in this division, he needs to do it right now. He's not getting any younger. Rakhmanov is going to have a 1-inch height advantage and also a 1-inch reach advantage. We'll take a look at the last few fights. Rakhmanov did make his debut against Alex Oliveira, got that first-round submission, and then gets, I believe it was a second-round submission against Michel Prazeres. Two very, very good performances. And same thing with Carlston Harris. He goes in there, submits Christian Aguilera in that first round, hurts him bad. And I believe it's Aguilera that shoots in on a takedown, and Harris snatches up his neck there. And then he goes out there and knocks out Impa Kasanganay as a big dog. And I know we were all over that one. So, yeah, I mean, I like both these guys a ton. Carlston Harris, this guy has great fight IQ. He has great cardio for the wrestling pace that he typically likes to push. The only thing I don't like thus far in Carlston Harris's UFC career is he is 0 for 4 on takedowns, so the wrestling isn't translating much to the UFC. He was 0 for 2 against Aguilera. I believe he was 0 for 2 against Impa, so I don't like that. But he's out there on the regional scene. He's pushing guys against the cage. He's winning minutes. I remember there was a fight that was like 25 minutes long, and he went out there. He had to have like over 10 takedowns in that fight, and it was the 5th round, and he was fresh. So you don't have to worry about the cardio of Harris. You don't have to worry about the IQ. He has a very interesting striking style, very awkward striking style that's working. I mean, he's hurt both Impa and Christian Aguilera bad in that first round, but he's going up against the monster here in Shavkat. It's a really, really good fight. I like both these guys. Weezy, I know you like them both as well. What do you think about this one here?
I think it's the best fight on the card. I think both of these guys are so good. And, Rakhmanov is about as hot of a prospect as we have in the welterweight division right now. This guy Harris is about as good of a journeyman coming in this division that we've seen in a long time. Carlston Harris, before he got into the UFC, took a fight against Saigid Isgakmaev. And this was in UAE Warriors. It was a co-UAE Warriors Eagle FC event. He took that fight on less than 48 hours notice and cut 17 kilograms in 24 hours, going in and fighting the 16-1 Saigid Isgakmaev, and he submits this son of a bitch in the second round. It's unbelievable. And that was what got him the shot here in the UFC. And then what does he do when he comes into the UFC? First round finish against Christian Aguilera, first round finish against Impa Kasanganay. He's absolutely on fire. And then Dan Goldstein said it earlier in the chat, I think right at the beginning of the day. Shavkat Rakhmanov has his own eagle that he's trained. An eagle. That's terrifying. That the eagle is the biggest predator with wings that there is on the planet. Even better than the hawk. Even better than the falcon. Eagles are terrifying. And evidently the eagle got him that baller-ass hat that he wears everywhere. I mean, it's one thing to buy a hat like that. It's another thing to train an eagle to go out and kill the animal that you want to make a hat out of, and then you actually make a hat out of it. So, these guys are fantastic. This is going to be such a good fight. These guys are both huge for the weight class. These guys are both extremely dangerous on the ground. These guys are both extremely dangerous with their striking. I don't even know what to say, man. I am like sweating over here just thinking about how excited I am for this fight. I'm praying that it doesn't get canceled. I'm doing a balls deep breakdown on my channel, 10 o'clock Central Time tonight on this fight because it's such a great fight. Dude, talk me off the ledge here. Make this even more exciting for me here. How does this one go down?
Dude, it's so good that there's nothing to say, right? It's such a good fight. But yeah, man, it's a tough one because I like both of these guys so much. But like I was saying, like, how does Harris win this fight? Like, I struggle to see him taking down Rakhmanov, honestly. Like, if he's not able to take down, Christian Aguilera or Impa, I don't know if he can take down Rakhmanov because I have seen Rakhmanov taken down before. But he's very good off his back. He's able to get up. He's able to sweep and get on top. So maybe Harris can take him down, but I'm kind of leaning towards he won't. And in terms of the striking, like I think the better technical striker is definitely Rakhmanov, but Harris definitely could present some problems with that wild striking, the big looping weird shots that land, and they land very hard. It's a tough fight to call. I have no clue. And this line makes it even worse. Like, Shavkat is a very big favorite. It looks like it is coming down a little bit, but he's still a very big favorite nonetheless. He opened up minus 175. Listen to this. He jumped all the way down to minus 300, and he's currently at minus 220. Carlston Harris opened up plus 150, went all the way to plus 250, and he is now plus 185. So, yeah, curious to see where this line goes. But, yeah, I think it should be lined a lot closer, right?
Yeah, it feels like it should be. Carlston, you cannot disrespect this dude. And if you want to see one situation, the only time I ever saw Shavkat Rakhmanov in trouble, he was fighting a Tajikistani dude named Odilov. And Odilov almost knocked him out in the second round. And guess how he almost knocked him out? It was some crazy overhand right that came from like Uzbekistan. And guess who throws exactly like that? Carlston Harris. Strange angles with a ton of power and a ton of length. The same way that Odilov hurt Rakhmanov and almost finished him. But then we see Rakhmanov come back after getting the shit kicked out of him for the last 2 minutes of that second round against Odilov, a guy who's now 13-2-2, by the way. He comes back in the third, starts putting the pressure on Odilov, gets him in a body lock, takes him down, and destroys the guy's shoulder on the takedown, makes the guy verbally submit. So Rakhmanov can come back from adversity. We've seen Carlston Harris do the same thing against Isgakmaev in particular. These guys are both so good. I can't wait for this fight. I am going to pick Shavkat, but God, I'm going to be flipping back and forth all week. I think Carlston Harris is worth an underdog bet. The guy is so dangerous. There's so many ways he could beat you. And I think his path to victory here is either winning a ton of minutes on the cage or landing a big strike standing.
Yeah. I'm picking Shavkat as well, but I want to see where the line goes on that one. It's such a good fight. We see that the over-under is set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 rounds, -135. The under 1.5 rounds is +105. I believe in the combined 4 UFC fights, they've all finished under 1.5, right? Was Prazeres under 1.5? I know it was probably close, right?
Yeah, well,
early second.
Yeah, it's average fight time for Rakhmanov is 6 minutes, but both of those finishes were in the second round, I believe, right?
I think the Oliveira one was late first.
Yeah, it might have been. So Prazeres, yeah, it was right around that 7.5 minute mark for sure. Yeah, I think Prazeres gave up a little bit there too, man. Phew, God, this guy is so good. But yeah, these guys, Rakhmanov, 100% finish rate. So, obviously this guy doesn't go to decision and he's never lost. And then Carlston Harris has only been finished once in 4 fights, and that was by, I believe it was Al-Salawi. And Gerard Al-Salawi is a killer, an absolute killer that hits like a truck. That's the only guy to knock him out. So something's going to break here, man. I can't wait for this fight.
Yeah, Cameron's saying, I think Shavkat will dominate. To be honest, -220 is worth a max bet. It could be. He could go out here and get his 15th win and his 15th finish win. We'll have to see. Big Show, what's up, Big Show? Hit that like button, 100 in here on Pub Sports. Appreciate you hanging out, Big Show. I agree. Hit the like button there. But yeah, it's a good fight. The other props, I was kind of looking at the fight. Doesn't go, but I really don't have that strong of a lean. It's -225. That's probably a little bit too chalk. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Rakhmanov won his very first decision here, which that's +310 because Harris is a very tough, very durable. Harris has, like you said, has been finished one time, right? Once or twice.
He's been finished once by Gerard Al-Salawi. It was a first round knockout. Other than that, never been finished. And, and obviously Rakhmanov is 100% finish rate in his own right. And you look at Carlston Harris recently, this guy's finishing fights. Other than the 5-round fight against Booth, where he won the championship down there, and I believe it was UAE Warriors, or maybe it was Brave. I think this is when he was in Brave when he won that championship there. So yeah, the thing about Harris is that he is very good at controlling minutes on the cage without getting the takedowns. We saw him do that against Alex Booth, and we've seen Rakhmanov give up minutes on the cage there. He goes to that guillotine, but Carlston Harris is just as tall as Shavkat is, so it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to get that. Once it goes to the ground, he's going to have to deal with Carlston's front choke attacks, and man, oh man, are they good. I can't wait. I've said it 25 times. We got to move on to the next one.
Yes, we do. But yeah, it's the best fight on the card. So, no problem in spending a little bit extra on it. But I feel like they're making a little bit of mistake. Like, I don't get this. Like, why is Rakhmanov Harris not the co-main event and rather than Punahele Soriano, Nick Maximov, which I do like this fight, but I feel like Rakhmanov Harris should be the co-main event. But we have Soriano here, Maximov. This should be a very good fight as well. Co-main event as of now, unless something changes. But Soriano, 29 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Nick Maximov, he is 24 years old, 6 foot with a 76-inch reach. Maximov, 5 years younger, and he's going to have a 1-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. And as far as the last couple of fights, Soriano 4-0 in his last 5 fights, a submission win over Jonathan Patty, a decision win against Jamie Pickett, a knockout win against Oscar Pajota, a knockout win against Dusko Todorovic, a decision loss to Brendan Allen. And I remember being on Soriano in that fight, and all week I was talking about how great his takedown defense is going to be. This guy's a state champion wrestler in high school. This guy's a judo champion in high school as well. This guy wrestled in college. And Brendan Allen goes out there and doesn't get one takedown. So I was right, but I wasn't expecting Allen to go out there and just outstrike him for 3 rounds. I was definitely wrong about that. But Nick Maximov, he is going to want to get this fight down to the mat early and often. He's not going to want to stand with Soriano. He did have a nice decision win against Cody Brundage in his debut there, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So this is a striker versus a grappler. Soriano on the feet. This guy hits very, very hard. Remember the Dusko fight where he just knocked him down? I know officially it says like only 2 knockdowns, 2 or 3, but I went back and watched. It was like 5 or 6 knockdowns in that fight. It was pretty hilarious. But this guy has a ton of power, so Nick Maximov is going to need to get this fight down to the mat quick. In terms of the gas tank, that's always a question mark about Soriano. This guy, if he gets out of the first round, I have some serious question marks about him. So if you like Soriano in this fight, and I do personally, maybe bet him either inside the distance or in that first round, because if he does get out of the first, I feel like it could get very interesting. But yeah, Weezy, curious to your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, this is another great fight. I watched all the tape available on both of these guys last night, and boy, are they both fun. Soriano, a little more experienced, 2 more professional fights. The cage time is identical, about a year and a half more as a mixed martial artist for Soriano than Maximov. 2 more UFC level fights for Soriano here, and 8 more minutes in the UFC cage. And then we also mentioned that Maximov is an inch taller and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here. And what I think is really important, this is a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. It's not something you see, often at all. Very rare are people even southpaws when they're squared off against each other. It's even more rare. And sometimes you'll see the better striker have a little bit of a problem when they're matched up against another southpaw. So I think that that's an interesting little wrinkle of this fight, that Nick's a southpaw. But when we look at the finish rates, Nick has finished 5 of his 7 wins. Soriano has finished 7 of his 8 wins. The only one he didn't finish was against Jamie Pickett, and Pickett's durable. Soriano's landing 0.24 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, and he throws more volume than his opponents. A ton of power, 2.37% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. And Maximov, not much of a striker. I wouldn't even call his striking serviceable yet for the UFC level, but he's only 24 years old. And what Nick does bring is a very high-level wrestling background and an even higher-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu background. So this is going to be a very, very interesting fight, because one of the things that I hate is when strikers are really, really good strikers with bad ground games, and then you look at them after 8 UFC fights, and for some reason they faced like 1 takedown attempt. Jamal Hill, for instance, is one of those guys. Cyril Gane before the Ngannou fight. I mean, nobody was ever trying to take this dude down. I mean, why would you not try to take down the best striker in the division? Evidently because you're stupid. Well, this is another one. Soriano does have the judo background and he does have the wrestling background, but this guy has only faced 1 takedown attempt. 1 in 4 fights. He's going to see 1 takedown attempt in the first second of this fight with Nick Maximov. So this is going to be a completely different fight than anything we've seen Punahele Soriano fight thus far in his professional career. Because I've went back and I've watched the regional scene footage on this guy as well. His offensive wrestling is good. He picks dudes up and absolutely throws them down on their heads. It looks great. But he's not going to be the first one shooting a takedown here. It's going to be Nick. And if Nick doesn't get the first one, he's going to shoot for the second one immediately after that. If he doesn't get that one, he's going to shoot for the third, and then the fourth, and then the fifth, and on and on and on. That's what you see in the Nick Maximov footage, is that this guy never takes his foot off the gas trying to get the fight where he's going to have the advantage. This is going to be the first time that Punahele Soriano has fought somebody with some fight IQ. And it's going to make a big difference. Yes. It's going to make a very, very, very big difference, I assure you. So I'm interested in this fight because Soriano absolutely hits like a truck. And why Soriano is a huge favorite here is that when this fight is standing, it's Soriano all day. He's the far better striker and way, way more dangerous striker. But when it gets to the ground, Soriano does have a high-level judo background and a high-level college and high school wrestling background. So we don't know how much better Maximov is going to be with the wrestling or if he's even going to be better at all. So it's dangerous betting Maximov because maybe the reason people have only attempted 1 takedown on Soriano in 4 fights is because you might as well not even bother to try to take him down. But we're going to find out on Saturday whether this guy could be taken down because Nick Maximov is not going to hang back and box with this dude. He's going to look to get this fight to the ground. And once he gets it there, he's going to be looking to finish it with ground and pound or submissions. This guy loves his triangles, and he will set the triangles up from top position, which is not something you see every day. So I am very intrigued by Nick Maximov at plus money, because he's going to bring a game plan that we've never seen Punahele Soriano see as a professional mixed martial artist.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I thought, Brendan Allen would help us answer a little bit of questions about the takedown defense, but no, not. I think maybe one takedown attempt from Brendan Allen, if that. So, yeah, that was not ideal. But yeah, like you said, we're definitely going to find out here, because if Nick Maximov strikes with Punahele, Soriano is his head's going to the third row. Boston Nick with the dono. He's saying 369. I love fine dining restaurants. Dono train. Appreciate you, Boston Nick. He also said 369. Damn girl, fine to the window. Appreciate that as well. We got Blood Money with the dono as well. Brady, I'm coming to Columbus UFC. Are you going? I'm gonna have to say what's up if you are. Kind of up in the air on it as of now. I might go. I might not, but yeah, if I go, well, we can definitely get together, maybe get a drink or something. But looks like the main event is off the Rakic Blachowicz fight, which kind of sucks. But yeah, the rest of the card's pretty good. So appreciate the dono there. And yeah, back to this fight. I personally think that Puna is going to knock him out in the first round. If not, I think it's going to get very interesting. I think I think the takedown defense will be good enough. But Weezy, like you're saying, like we really don't know. Like Brendan Allen did not help us out at all in terms of how good is Soriano's takedown defense. We know that he has a state championship in wrestling in high school. We know that he wrestled D2 in college as well. We know that he has that judo background, but how is his takedown defense? We don't know, but we're going to find out here. I really have no interest in betting this fight. If anything, maybe Soriano to win in round one. I think if he does win, it is in round one. Soriano inside the distance, plus 125. Fight goes to decision, plus 140. Fight doesn't go to decision, is minus 170. Soriano, minus 185. Maximum, plus 160. Weezy, what do you think about this one? I think you're muted.
I'm not going to touch the time props on this one. The 16 professional fights, only one loss between the two of these guys, and it was not inside the distance. So it's hard to know whether to bet this one, inside the distance or by decision. They're both really good fighters. They're both very young. Soriano still only 29. Nick Maximov, 24 years old. So I'm not going to be touching time props on this one, but I really do believe that Maximov's game plan, being something that Soriano has not seen yet in the UFC cage or in the regional scene cage, is going to make this a very compelling matchup. I'm leaning at a Maximov bet here, even though I think that Soriano wins this fight more times than he loses it.
Yeah, and even like a live bet situation, like if Maximov does not die in the first couple minutes, probably get Maximov at pretty good dog money, you got to imagine. So live betting, something to look at, but yeah, just no interest for me in betting this fight. But I'm going to pick Soriano to knock him out early. But yeah, very intriguing fight as well. All right, main event here. Me and Weezy will be going live on my channel, DFS by the Numbers, tomorrow around 5:15 p.m. Eastern time, going deep into this fight. And it's a pretty interesting one. It's a tough one to call. I've been going back and forth on this one all week. So we'll talk about it. It will definitely go deep here and then even deeper tomorrow. Michael with the dono. Appreciate you, Michael. Appreciate you, Brady and Weezy. Always look forward to the best MMA content. Really, really do appreciate that a ton. Thank you for the $5 dono.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, appreciate that. And we got Luke as well, fellas. What is up, Luke? All right. Main event. Jack Hermansson, Sean Strickland, Weezy. Hot take. I'm more interested in the Rakhmanov Harris fight than the main event. Are you with me there, or are you kind of?
I am with you. I mean, but I was gushing like a schoolgirl about that fight just 10 minutes ago, so it shouldn't surprise anyone. But yeah, this is, this is a good main event. These are two top-notch middleweights, and when you look at the numbers, goddamn, these guys are very similar in a lot of different areas. So I see this being a compelling fight to break down.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Maybe you can help me out a little bit, because like I said, I've been flipping back and forth the last couple days. Jack Hermansson, 33 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Sean Strickland, 30 years old, 6'1", 76-inch reach. Sean Strickland starting to gain a lot of hype on him. He's on a nice win streak here. He's definitely has a presence on Twitter. He's known as pretty much the crazy guy nowadays, because he is a little nuts. But I really like Sean Strickland. I like his style, and I like Jack Hermansson as well. Strickland, 3 years younger, both 6'1", and Strickland's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Jack Hermansson, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He's fighting very, very good competition. A decision win against Jack Erosa, a knockout loss to Jared Cannonier. He's a big favorite in that fight. A submission win over Calvin Gastelum, a decision loss to Marvin Vettori, and a decision win against Edmund Shabazian. As far as Sean Strickland, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He came back after a pretty long layoff, had a decision win against Jack Marshman, which I'm really shocked he did not finish that fight, but it was a really good win nonetheless. He knocked out Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen, again, showing some horrendous fight IQ, along with a horrendous hairstyle as well, decided not to take down Sean Strickland. It was actually Strickland that took down Brendan Allen, eventually knocked him out. Brendan Allen, you're not a striker, get the fight down to the mat. And then he had a decision win against Christoph Jocko and a decision win against Uriah Hall. So in terms of the striking, I really like the striking of Sean Strickland. He's going to throw a ton of volume. I like the combinations. But Jack Hermansson, he's no scrub on the feet. I was very impressed in terms of the striking of Jack Hermansson. He was a much better striker than I remembered. So I think on the feet, you've got to favor Strickland, but I don't think it's he's going to shave his ass in the feet or nothing like that. I think it's going to be competitive with an advantage to Strickland with the volume and the combinations there and the striking defense. In terms of the wrestling, this is what makes this fight so hard to call for me. Sean Strickland on paper, his takedown defense is 82%, right? But in the last couple of years, only one takedown has been attempted against him. It was Christoph Jocko. But the last time somebody really tried to take him down was Court McGee. And that was back in 2017, 2016. So it's been a long time since somebody has tried to take down Sean Strickland. That fight was actually back in, 2017. Court McGee tried to take down Sean Strickland 11 times. So maybe the takedown defense is skewed a little bit. And then against Kamaru Usman, which was also in 2017, Usman dominated him in that fight, controlled him for 8 minutes, but only took him down 2 times out of 8 attempts. And then also he was taken down 3 times by Alex Garcia in a fight as well that he did win. So it's been a while since somebody has really tried to take down Sean Strickland. You got to imagine that Hermansson is definitely going to try that here. So Weezy, curious to your thoughts about this one.
Yeah, it's you look at the numbers on this fight and it's crazy, right? I mean, Hermansson 28 pro fights, Strickland 27. 270 minutes of cage time for Hermansson, 260 for Strickland. 11 and a half years as a pro for Hermansson, almost 14 for Strickland. 14 UFC fights for Strickland, 13 for Hermansson. 60 more minutes in the UFC cage for Strickland. Even the average fight time is, 9.4 for Hermansson, 13 for Strickland. The numbers are very close. And then you look at the striking numbers and you're like, wow, both these guys land about 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than they absorb. Strickland showing a little bit of power. Hermansson has been knocked down 3 times in 13 UFC fights, while for Sean Strickland, he's only been knocked down once in 14 fights, 680 significant strikes absorbed. Strickland with the power advantage on the feet, Strickland with the volume advantage on the feet as well. But both of these guys throw a lot more significant strikes per minute than their opponents do, which is very good. And then when you look at the grappling numbers, Hermansson 36% on his takedowns, over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, outcontrols his opponents 24% to 16%. So his fights are spending time in control time positions about 40% of the time. For Strickland, it's about 22% of the time. Strickland getting his takedowns at a 61% clip. And despite the fact that his opponents have attempted 39 takedowns and Sean Strickland has attempted 26, he's out-controlling his opponents by 5%, 13.78% to 8.38%. So Sean Strickland is very efficient with his wrestling. He's fought some of the greatest wrestlers in the welterweight division, guys like Garcia and Usman, and still he is boasting an 82% takedown defense. In Sean Strickland's last 6 fights, his opponents are, I believe, 0 for 15 on their takedown attempts against him. So, yeah, guys aren't trying to take him down, but the guys that are trying to take him down haven't been successful. Hermansson is probably going to be trying to take this dude down. Is he a chain wrestler that kind of goes after it, incessantly? No, not really. 13 fights, 47 takedown attempts. So that's about 3.5 takedown attempts per fight, just over 1 takedown completed per fight, about 1.25. And the efficiency is pretty good, but not great. He's been taken down 5 times. And in those 5 times that he's been taken down, he's been controlled about 19 minutes. So he can be put on his back and controlled. He can be put on the fence and controlled. It's just that I think Strickland's going to have more power on the feet. Strickland's striking defense is almost 67%, while for Hermansson, it's 55%. I think Strickland will be the minute winner on the feet here, and I don't think Hermansson is as good of a wrestler in order to win enough minutes on the ground here for me to think that Sean Strickland doesn't get the W here. And then when we look at the strength of schedule, it's Strickland, you guys. 2.04 ratio to 1.44 for Hermansson, and almost as experienced of opponents. And if you look at the wins, better ratio for Strickland, almost as experienced of opponents. And then the losses, they're both losing to only top-notch competition, but Strickland's losses are even better. And when you see Strickland being able to hang on the feet with guys like, Brendan Allen, who just had a really great striking performance in his last outing, Jack Marshman, Uriah Hall in particular, I think he can hang on the feet easily with Hermansson here. I do see Sean Strickland winning this fight by decision.
Yep, same thing here. Sean Strickland, don't feel overly confident about it. I'd like to see his wrestling tested a little bit more, but going back and watching the Kamaru Usman fight, it's Kamaru Usman, right? And Usman was 2 for 8 on takedowns, was able to control him, but he's a much better wrestler than Usman or than Hermansson. And then also the Court McGee fight. I know people crap on Court McGee. He's kind of having a career resurgence there, but he's able to stuff like 12 takedowns against Court. So from what I've seen, his takedown defense does look good. And Strickland, I think he's either a brown belt or a black belt in BJJ as well. But you really, like people are saying that you really do not want Jack Hermansson on top of you. So we'll see what happens. But I like Strickland here to win. And yeah, probably by decision. Strickland open up -175. He's now -210. Hermansson open up +150. He's now +180. I really want nothing to do with that money line.
No.
Either way, the fight goes to decision -110. The fight doesn't go to decision -120. Strickland by decision +190. Hermansson by decision +425. Hermansson inside the distance +370. I didn't have a bet on the main event in Ngannou and Gane, and thank God I didn't, because I was not predicting Ngannou to go out there.
You didn't predict Ngannou by decision? I thought we predicted that. Didn't we both predict that?
No, I did not predict Ngannou to go out there and take down Gane rounds 3, 4, and 5 and win a wrestling-based decision. So thank God I did not bet on that fight. And I know people want action on the main event, but I think this might be another main event where I just sit back and watch this one. I really don't see anything that sticks out. Like even the over-unders here, like, yeah, I think it goes over 2.5 rounds is -185. I think that's okay. It's just I'm not tempted enough. So I might be another, back-to-back main events where I'm just like not pulling the trigger on anything. Is there anything that you like? Do you like the Strickland money line? Do you like Strickland by decision +190?
Yeah, betting a decision in a 5-round fight, a decision prop is it's terrifying. I did it with Davis and Figueiredo last week. It worked out, but it's hard. And I don't think I'm going to be touching this either. And the one thing we didn't talk about is Jack Hermansson's ground and pound. If he does get on top of Sean Strickland, man, this guy's ground and pound is absolutely terrifying. And I'm hearing people in the chat saying that they disagree and they think Hermansson's level of competition is better. And it is better at the middleweight level. But go back and look at the guys that Sean Strickland fought at welterweight. That's why the metric is saying that Strickland has fought the better brand of competition. When you look at the losses to guys like Zaleski dos Santos, 9-3, Kamaru Usman, 15-0, Ponzinibbio, 10-4. It's because of those fights that the strength of schedule metric is kind of showing them very similar. But you're right. Hermansson has fought the better competition at 185.
No question about it. As of late, Hermansson's fought the better competition, but as a whole, it's Strickland.
Absolutely. And Strickland's been winning convincingly, while Hermansson's fights have obviously been a lot closer, win or lose, just because of the level of competition. So that's another reason, not just how good Hermansson is on the ground and how terrifying his ground and pound is, but the fact that Hermansson's fought the better middleweight competition. that makes me feel that even though Strickland should comfortably win minutes on the feet here, and that this fight should take place on the feet for most of it, that, you know, he's just dangerous enough to make me stay away from a Strickland bet here.
Yep, understandable, man. But yeah, we did it. 13 fights. Next week, as of now, we have 15 fights. So those 15 fight cards are always fun. Not really fun to watch, but not fun to like break down all week. But yeah, man, good card here. Looking forward to it. Some great fights scattered out, some really bad chins scattered throughout. Uncle Weezy, let the people know what you have going on throughout the week and where they can find you. And I heard a rumor that you are going live tonight as well.
Live tonight, 10 o'clock Central Time on my channel, Uncle Weezy on YouTube. I'm going to be doing a balls deep breakdown on the Carlston Harris versus Shavkat Rakhmanov fight. I will try to keep my schoolgirl crush on both of these guys out of it and just break down the fight like a true professional and not just be gushing about how much I like both of these guys' skill sets. So that's on tap for 10 o'clock tonight. Every Tuesday on my channel, I also do a full card breakdown called Just the Tip, 10 o'clock Central Time. There will be other balls deep breakdowns coming this week. You can find me on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers and every Tuesday for the DFS show that we do with you, Brady, Luke from Sparring with Reality, and our guy Monk. God bless each and every one of you guys for spending your Sunday night, especially during playoff football, to find out who's going to go to the Super Bowl and spending it with Brady and I, breaking down these 13 fights on the UFC Vegas 47 card. Can't wait to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this one and move on to the next, Brady.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, probably gonna be another light card for me, kind of like last week, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. For me, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. I'll be going live tomorrow with Uncle Weezy, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time, main event breakdown. My full card breakdown prediction video either out tomorrow or Tuesday. And then we have live stream Friday, and then live stream best bet Saturday, 1 hour prior to the prelims. And then like Boss Nick saying here, smash it like, and also see you live on Saturday, the live commentary. I did come last card, I believe. I might be able to make it again this week as well. So come check that out. And yeah, leave a like. Really do appreciate all the likes, subscriptions here to Pub Sports Radio. We're almost to that 15K mark, so if we can get that soon, that'd be awesome. And yeah, really happy with everybody that showed up tonight. Playoff football going on. Maybe not the most exciting game, but yeah, really appreciate you guys. We'll be live next week, I think at the same time. I think the Super Bowl is on February 13th. So for that week, we'll be moving the show probably to like Monday night after Clint's show here on Pub as well. So that's what it, guys. Thank you for hanging out. Good luck, and let's make some money for UFC Vegas 47.